and I know we like to run things to time. So today's session is really about amplify your brand, bring your sales forward, and get your time back. We're breaking this up into two parts. In effect, the first part will carry on till between about 3 to 3:30, probably about 3:15. We will take a natural break for about 10 or 15 minutes just to give everyone a chance to get a cup of tea or coffee. And then we'll go into the second session. And in the last 30 minutes of the session today, we'll be running a competition as well, which I explain a lot more about a little bit later on. So the first part of the agenda is we're going to share market insights, and we'll discuss the importance of building tribes to help you to achieve growth. We'll also explain why it's important to have a balanced portfolio of products to get your marketing mix right, and the social selling blueprint. And this next part is completely new. It's a new service we're starting from January, very much by public demand. And it's basically how you can create content and repurpose that content and redistribute it in such a way that you can reach a global audience. And that includes YouTube and all the social media channels, plus the podcasting channels. And actually, it's a much bigger story than that, but it'll become very obvious as this afternoon folds out. We're also, as part after the coffee break, we will talk about more advanced LinkedIn techniques to get high value clients, and we'll also discuss the systems and tools that you can put in place to leverage your efforts to bring your sales forward and get your time back. And what we'll also do is give you like a quick demo or insight to the Biz-Growth TimeMachine. And as part of that would be the action plan and the competition itself. So who is this presentation for? Well, it's for CEOs and leaders who want business growth. It's for those who are open-minded and leaders who value their time, and those that are aspirational. I think we all know the quote from Albert Einstein, but clearly if you don't value your time and you love Groundhog Day, then this session isn't particularly for you. But I think most people on this call, if not everyone, wants to be part of something where they feel they're going to make a difference, not only themselves, but also to their business, can move things on a strong growth path. Now, just a bit of a bonus session, not today, but on Thursday, we've got Michael Romling back on again. He joined us in early April this year, shortly after the first lockdown started. And it was a very well-received session. That was very much about how the reptilian brain, in fact, impacts your decision-making process. And he's going to be talking this Thursday about removing the doing to make the impossible possible. It's a really intriguing topic, actually, and it's great with him because he's got a really good way of lateral thinking. Also, one of his clients in the past, by the way, was Putin. Interesting enough, and that's because he themed a session around golf, which Putin is very fond of, as well as, of course, riding bareback on a horse, although I'm sure Michael Romney didn't do that. But nevertheless, Michael is very highly regarded within his specialist area. And if there is a tiebreaker in the competition today, and therefore we can't draw the prize winner straight away today, that will be announced on Thursday. Okay, now, last time round, it was clear cut. There was only one winner. The previous time, believe it or not, we had a tiebreaker of 4 people. So we definitely needed to roll it over to the Thursday to go through all the answers the tiebreaker questions and make a decision from there. And then as part of the fact you've joined us today, you will have the opportunity to take part in discovery, insights and strategy sessions, and they'll be running from tomorrow until Monday next week. Okay, so today what I'll be showing you how using the social selling blueprint through the lead generation system, prospect nurturing and sales optimization system, that you can create a predictable, repeatable system which will give you consistent sales month in, month out. So, Muriel, any questions that have come up so far, or any points that people would like to make?
No, we've got Louise Shuttleworth that's joined us.
Right.
and Vicky, and of course Terry Chesney. No questions yet.
Yeah. So Louise, welcome this afternoon, and also Terry. Yes. I didn't. Muriel, bless her cotton socks. I wanted to catch up with Muriel yesterday before you both spoke, because obviously I thoroughly enjoyed our meeting that we had with you. I think it's about a year or so back now. And in fact, I'd love to speak with you after today's call, Terry, perhaps over the next few days, because I've got something which I wouldn't mind discussing with you, if that's okay. So what's the point that Alex is making there, Muriel? Just give us a little bit of insight to what Alex is saying there.
I really don't know. Stress in the workplace at all.
I think it's really a point.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I think he's talking about through lockdown, how things have impacted different businesses. So stress in the workplace has reached an all-time high.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's saying. Am I right, Alex?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll tell us. Yes, it's interesting. I was speaking to Sam, our son, a couple of days ago, and for him, although at times it's been, he's only age 24 and he was on furlough for nearly 6 months. Fortunately, he's got his job back, which is great. Of course, many people haven't, but he's actually been saying that for him, it's been a little bit of a blessing, strangely enough, because what he's been doing, he's been doing a lot of cycling and running and things like that. So Sam is kind of a very fit young man. Puts me to shame, but there we go. Anyway, sort of moving on a little bit from here. What we will do is just touch briefly on the previous prize winners. Stuart Honey won a big prize from us a few months ago. Nathan King the month before last, and he was really pushing it, actually, because he was one of the 4 tiebreakers, and he couldn't stay on to the very last minute of the call, but he was able to rejoin 10 seconds before we drew the prize, and he was one of the 4 prize winners. So you can see people's reaction there. There is Nikki looking a little bit upset there because she was also in the competition, and also Ian as well, but they're very worthy runner-ups anyway. And then last month, got to congratulate Simon Ward for being a prize winner then. So we like to make these a lot of fun when we do these things. So I'm delighted you've been able to join us today. Sort of moving on from that, this is actually the prize that we're going to be giving away, all being well, at the end of today for one person. And it's what we class as our Biz-Growth Accelerator membership. And I'll be going into a lot more detail about that later on, but it's worth just under £3,500 plus VAT. And we will also be giving a small number of Amazon vouchers as well as way. So those of you who are being really engaged and asking some really great points, wanting to share value as part of the conversation today. Remember, it's not about self-promotion, it's about sharing value. Everyone gets to know each other. If someone makes some really great points or wants to share something really interesting, you never know, you might be one of the Amazon prize winners from today. So just some top tips in terms of increasing your chance of winning. First of all, make sure you join us for both sessions, okay? And that's really important because the questions today in the final part are largely based on the contents of today's live stream. Okay, so if you miss parts of it, or you've got something else running in the background that is distracting you, you're just going to probably not win the prize. And I will tell you something, that Nikki was the runner-up a month before last, and also with Nathan, the previous person, they won by being very systematic. They made lots of notes. So I'd urge you to do the same. I'd recommend for today's session that you close all other tabs, so you've literally just got this running. Doing live streams is very resource hungry, as you probably know, and it can be on Facebook as well, YouTube. And the prize draw will be based on those completing the online questionnaire. And if we've already explained, if there's a tiebreak, it'll be roll over to Thursday. If you've previously won a major prize, you will be excluded from that part of the competition, but you'll still be eligible for the runner-up prizes or other prizes as part of today. So do get involved, do introduce yourselves in the chat, indicate what you'd like out today, ask bold questions, no web links, please. Make those bold questions. That's what makes it so exciting today. And Muriel, I'll perhaps let you save some of those up for a bit later on. It's your chance to be involved. And a quick intro from me and Muriel. First of all, at a personal point of view, that's myself, my lovely wife, Wendy, and our son, Sam, who's 24 years old. Unfortunately, he's better at me at chess now, apart from one particular occasion where I did manage to play a few drinks down him and I beat him, which has given me a lot of sense of satisfaction, as you can imagine. And that's our lovely dog called Gus. He's now 8 months old, but he knows exactly how to charm you with his eyes, as it were. So, and Muriel, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, I am married. I've got 3 boys. I call them my boys still because to me they're still my babies, but they're actually men. 36, 35, and 33. Jonathan on the extreme right, that looks like it looks quite scary, is really soft and has got a big heart, and he lives in Ibiza. He runs a concierge service, and Daniel in the middle lives up here in the Wirral. That's why we moved up here. And Simon on the left is a personal trainer, and he lives still down in the Croydon area. My husband in the middle, who apparently looks like James Bond there in his suit. I beg to differ, Rupert, but I know you say he does. I really enjoy working with people, spending time with people, organising them, if you like, to help them to become more successful.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Now, poor old Jonathan, he used to have a reptile when he was a lot younger, and it was a massive thing, this thing. And I think he's decided to take very, very much after his reptile, hasn't he? By
with his body arts.
Yeah, exactly. But they're all great boys. So yeah, excellent. And from a professional point of view, just to give you a little bit of insight, Business Growth Bureau was actually formed about 6.5 years ago. I'd love to say it was all my idea. It wasn't. It was the founder of a charity that I helped informally, who gave me lots of tips at the time. As also a bit of a personal mentor to me. He then came back and said, "Look, Rupert, I could do a bit of help from a marketing point of view. I knew that they couldn't afford to pay that, and that was absolutely fine. I just wanted to help." And he came back a bit later on and said, "Have you thought about setting up a service for other clients to help them win more business on LinkedIn?" And that's how Business Growth Bureau was formed 6.5 years ago. And since then, we've served literally hundreds of clients, and it's great being able to feel that we're making a really positive difference. One of the things I will share a little bit of pain as well, because I think with these things it's always about being very honest as well, because you do learn a lot by failing. If you haven't failed in business, then you're probably not learning. Okay, so and certainly about 12 years ago, I had a business which grew from nothing to employing 65 people. We had over 160,000 clients. We had literally 3,000 active introducers to the organization. At its peak, we were handling 30,000 calls per month. That's not per year, per month. And the average call time was 14 minutes. And that's how Muriel and I got to know each other. Muriel was effectively my number 2. She managed a very lively team of 45 telesales people and about 20 admin support staff as well. And a lot of fun was to be had. Having said that, it was growing at such a fast rate continually. We had to move offices 3 times in 4 years. That in itself proved really challenging. And being an entrepreneur, one of the things that I love is actually helping and supporting people, but also you got to know when perhaps things are just happening a little bit too quickly. But the learning, that was great. It's a very painful experience at the time because we nearly lost a house over it. But at the same token, that's helped with Business Growth Bureau now, because when I speak to CEOs and leaders of companies, I know pretty well, the pain they're going through, but also the opportunities, successes they're going through. And I can often spot things where other people, things that people miss. Now, Muriel, do you want to give a little bit of insight from your own point of view, from a business point of view, what you're really passionate about?
Yeah, as I said before, I enjoy working with people. I enjoy talking to people, as most people will know, because I've made so many calls to them. I think I've made a lot of calls to people on the calls on the mini conference today. I do enjoy getting to know people. I'm quite a sociable person. And I enjoy working and training them in areas that they need to be better at, if you like. So yeah, that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, no, good. Well, as I've said repeatedly before, every business needs a Muriel. So Muriel's wonderful because she sorts all the mess out that I create. So, but there we go. And one of the things that I would just highlight from a personal point of view, and I think it's a very good lesson to others too, is that people do a lot of cheap talk about a so-called win-win. And unfortunately, when big corporates mean it, it usually means I win, you lose. Okay. So what I feel is really important is to build on what I class as circular relationships. So think of all those people around you, from investors to prospects, to clients, to partners, to associates, suppliers, and also your management team and your staff as well. If you can make everyone feel good about their relationship, even if they're suppliers, for example, then the great thing is they tend to be some of your best customers and supporters as well. So it's worth just bearing that in mind. And a little bit of a plug here for Alex. Alex Reardon joined in the community a few months ago and has already had a big impact. Formerly a director at IBM, responsible for 5,000 people worldwide, and he's very supportive in our advisory panel. I'm not sure Karen's with us yet. Karen Davies, I know she's hoping to join in this afternoon. But Karen, if you are here, hello. If not, no doubt you'll hear about this afterwards. But Karen is also a very strong supporter of the organisation, and she's got a lot of experience of running peer-to-peer based groups and workshops, and a lot of experience with companies such as Vistage, and also working with other organisations on a management consulting type role, not just in this country, but also in Australia and many other countries as well. She's very well travelled, is Karen. And Chris Cooper, he co-hosts the Thursday live streams with me, and is a very big support of the organisation, and equally the other way around. He also runs a show called Voice America, which has been running for 10 years. And one of the things that led to the live streams being formed is both he and I spoke, and we said, look, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could set up something with no expectation, no charge, something completely free, because we felt, at the time when lockdown was starting to happen first time round in March, that we needed to give back. And there's a lot of people at the time, and I think still are to a degree, almost quite traumatized by the whole experience. Okay, and it was, people just needed support. And the live streams have taken a bit of a life of their own. You can have different guests on each week, and absolutely fantastic sessions. And delighted to have all three people involved with the organisation in an advisory capacity. So thank you for all those that supported us. And by the way, I haven't been able to keep up with the chat, but Muriel, do you want us to welcome a few more people in? I've seen a few other names come up, but do you want to welcome a few more people in before we move on?
Yeah. We have, where are we? Mebs has joined us. So welcome to Mebs. Thomas Brown. That's Tom. Yeah, but what Tom said is he's been working remotely since 2008. Thanks for that, Tom. I think
we got Damien as well, I think, somewhere here as well.
Yeah, Damien has joined us. Mike Anderson has joined us.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's it so far.
We got a different Vicky join us, somewhere. I was thinking it was Vicky, the other Vicky that we know who won the competition, but it's Vicky Ross has joined us as well.
Yeah, no, it's Vicky Ross.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking it was the other Vicky. Spelled with V-I-K-K-I, is that right? I mean, or the other one?
Yeah, I think that's the modern version.
Okay, well, moving on. Obviously, Muriel, you're keeping a list of questions, so do keep those questions.
Yeah, I haven't actually got any questions yet. I think once you start, people will start asking those questions, and then we'll
move on from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, lovely. All right, well, let's move on then. So what we want to be known for, this is a bit of an extension of what we were doing before. We want to actually help you to elevate your brand. We want to help you to bring your sales forward, and we want to help you to leverage technology to give you your time back. And fundamentally, we love to make a difference as well. So remember those three things. So this is very much going to be the theme for today and part of today's session. But fundamentally, what we want to do is to help you to do the job once, to create the content, repurpose it, and amplify it many times. Okay, I'll explain a lot more how and why in a minute. We want to help you by providing a solution in the box to create a strong lead flow of opportunities month in, month out with consistency. And we also want to show you all the tools to leverage your entire marketing and sales process. Now, in terms of market insights and how this will impact you, now, as those of you who've joined us a few times before will be familiar with these numbers, but it's not a bad idea in terms of a bit of reinforcement. But there's a big misconception over the demographic makeup of business in the UK. And although the numbers in the US will be completely different, the percentages are not too different in the US. So, for example, in the UK, there are 3.2 million one-person businesses in the UK. And there's about 1.2 million businesses which employ between 2 and 10 people. And there's another 220,000 businesses which employ between 11 and 50. And there's about 1%, believe it or not, employ 51 to 250. And there's only 6,500 businesses in the UK which represent all the rest. Now, believe it or not, that's something like 0.05% of the number of businesses in the UK. It just happens the corporates, of course, are responsible for almost half the workforce. Now, as what you tend to find, of course, is in situations like we're faced at the moment, you've got, it tends to be the micro businesses which tend to be hit first by any form of recession. Okay, now, obviously, this pandemic is different to anything we know because it's also very badly hit some very large companies as well. We only need to see what's happened with Topshop and the airlines and all sorts of other organizations. Now, why am I talking about this particularly? Well, if you've got a fairly high value product or service to sell, there's no point necessarily going for the 3.2 million people down here, because probably 90% of those won't be in your chosen target market. And that's excluding any filtering you do by industry sector and everything else that goes with it. Okay. That's a bit of a generalization. It depends an awful lot on your business. Okay. You may only find out of that 1.2 million businesses, again, excluding industry sector, that actually it's not 1.2 million. It might be only 10% of that. So it's 120,000. Yes, get my decimal points in the right place. Okay. And then the next tier after that, it might be another 5 or 10% of that. So the reason why I highlight this is a lot of people say, well, look, I'm a bit of a generalist. My service product cuts across virtually all industry sectors. Okay. Now, when someone says that to me, it usually means they don't really understand the market because the bottom line is, unless you've got the budget of British Telecom or some other very large PLCs out there, you just can't reach a mass audience unless you use some of the techniques that we're going to be sharing with you today. And the good news is a lot of that you can do very cheaply as well. Okay, so it is very important to look at your market, segment down, then micro segment again. And from that, you'll be able to get your targeting right. Okay, so let's move on a tiny bit now. I just lost my mouse. Now, this is what we class as the rule of 3/3. Okay, so this applies particularly in people who are coaches, mentors, trainers, consultants, or where you're selling time for money. Okay, what you find typically is that a third of the time is actually spent on self-development and void periods. Another third of the time is spent prospecting and finding clients, and the other third of the time is spent on fee-paying work. Okay, now what that basically means, instead of, if let's say you're wanting to earn £100,000 a year, okay, what it basically means is that instead of dividing the number by there's 260 working days in a year, knock off 40 days for holidays, sickness, time with family, perhaps dealing with children, need time off at school. That reduces down to 220 days. What that basically means is you don't take your 100,000 a year by 220, and that's your, should be your billable rate. You need to look at it, take that 220, divide it by 3, which will give you a figure of give or take about 70 days. And you need to make sure that you're then divide that 70 into 100,000. That needs to be your minimum billable daily rate. Now, you don't necessarily charge people by the day, okay? I know some people do it that way, but in real terms, people especially in a highly competitive market, don't particularly like to do that. It tends to work a lot better when your things are a little bit more project-based, as the case might be. But the bottom, the fundamentals are still there. It's very important to understand that, because a number of people I come across and where they have real difficulty putting the option mask on themselves because they don't actually understand some of those key numbers. So the other thing, of course, is peaks and troughs. Now, I'm sure we can all relate to this. What tends to happen as we get busy, we tend to take our foot off the pedal on our marketing efforts, and as a consequence, our business dries up until we go through another pass of trying to drive in new clients. So you end up with these peaks and troughs. And it's typically those businesses which tend to switch on and off their marketing at regular intervals. So obviously the coaching, mentoring, training space is particularly around for that, but there are many other sectors as well who are not consistent with their marketing. And as a consequence, there's a massive negative impact on their business. Now, traditionally, at times like this, what companies will do is they will take the softer option, okay, or perceived softer option. And so quite often, things like marketing can be cut when actually what you need to do is to make sure that you are very much forefront of someone's mind, because people will come back as clients, they will come as customers. If you've been there for them and you've been there all the time, you'll be at front of mind. And instead of you being well behind the wave and possibly sinking under the waves, you will actually be riding along the crest of the waves, okay? So what I would say with all of this, be prepared for everything. So, for example, no one could have predicted this pandemic that we're in at the moment. But what we could have done is predicted there was going to be some form of recession at some point, because typically there is some form of recession every 10 to 11 years. And the last one was about 2008, 2009. So we were due for one around about now anyway. It just happened that this time around, the pandemic has been the big trigger for it, okay? So what you have to do is be prepared for the unexpected, and also be prepared to adapt your plans and adjust your plans relating to your business. And then we also recommend that you follow the social selling blueprint. So you need to have a really good process where you are reaching out to your ideal type of leads. You have a really good prospect nurturing process, so people are asking to have meaningful conversations, and you need to be building on those relationships so that people are actually asking to have sales-based conversations rather than you feeling having to sell to them. And it's just worth sort of bearing that in mind. Okay, so and moving on from there, now this is a bit more relevant to medium-sized or larger organizations, but I think, as a case by Alex, I think you had quite a big sales team working for you, a very big sales team working for quite a while, but I'm sure you recognize this graphic extremely well in the sense that if your business development managers or resource are spending the time on prospecting and then trying to reach out to cold prospects, first of all, it'd be really soul destroying, but also a lot of opportunities are being missed along the way, okay? And the other thing is a lot of people like that will burn out. They tend to be some of your most expensive resource, but they'll burn out and they'll just leave. And of course, it can take perhaps 6 months as a minimum to train someone to be really good in your sales team, okay? Isn't it much better to actually reflect as the bar on the right, where you can basically be reaching out to 65% of those people, okay, but with people where they're largely hot prospects, where they're asking to have those conversations, isn't that much better in terms of helping the business development managers to bring in much better sales results, to go over their sales targets? Also, the retention rate of your key people will be much longer because they actually will enjoy working for you, and also because they're earning a lot more commission, which of course is great for everyone because everyone wins in that type of scenario. And then you've got this as well. Now, this is, we did a survey across over 2,000 LinkedIn profiles, and what we established that only 8% are very well optimized, 17% are semi-optimized, and 75% of LinkedIn profiles are very poorly optimized, okay? Now, is that your fault? Not necessarily. The chances are that you've done it the way that LinkedIn want you to do it, because they make a lot of money out of recruitment agencies, okay? And therefore, if you're looking for a job, then do it the way that LinkedIn want you to do it. if you want to use LinkedIn as a serious business tool to win more business, then we suggest a completely different approach. The reason for that is that company pages on LinkedIn aren't very well looked at. They aren't looked at that often. Whereas if you look at someone's profile on LinkedIn, people will buy from people, and you need to make your profile so it's much more suitable for people who will be attracted to you as potential customers or wholesalers or distributors, whatever it may be. But people will look at that bit first before they look at anything else. So we suggest a different approach. I'll be explaining a lot more about how a bit later on. The other part is that we've done some analysis across our own databases as well. And now we've actually got an email list of 68,000 business email addresses in the UK and also the US and parts of Asia. And that only accounts for about 25% of business. The rest of it actually comes mainly from LinkedIn. So 61% of the business that we get is through LinkedIn. And when I say business, it's not always about sales. So, for example, Alex Ryan, who joined us on the call today, Karen Davies, Chris Cooper, they were all people that I met through LinkedIn. And it started off by having a really meaningful conversation. And that's led on to some really good other things. And I think a lot of you today have come via LinkedIn or been on our email list, or Muriel's reached out to you, or you've received a text from us. So it's just worth bearing that in mind. And Facebook and Instagram at the moment only counts for about 5%. Now, that probably is partly because we're more in the business-to-business sector, but also in our particular case, we use it rather more strategically in the sense that we use it more for leveraging our brand and values through live streams, but also we use those two for a little bit of retargeting, and that's about as far as we go for Facebook and Instagram. And then referrals about 9%. Obviously, 9% of a good number of leads coming through is still a nice number. And of course, referrals, they're great because people will largely be pre-sold, which is fantastic. But I wanted to share this with you because if you've got the perception that LinkedIn doesn't work, it can now be maybe for your sector that it could be wrong for you. But the vast majority of times I hear that when I start talking to people about their respective business interests, it's actually very apparent that they are missing quite a few tricks along the way. And so it is a case we're thinking differently about this, because I can tell you if you do adopt the right strategies, you'll get some really good results. There's also another elephant in the room. Now, we all know about, there's always a number of elephants in reality, but let's look at what's going on in the marketplace, the decline of the dinosaurs, the ascent of those that adapt and change. Let's look at what's really happening just today, literally speaking. Now, this is not on this slide, but of course, we've seen with Topshop and Top Man, and all these other stores owned by Philip Green. I think he's just worth under £1 billion these days. And of course, he has to keep his very expensive luxury yachts afloat. We're sure we all understand that, or not, as the case might be. But of course, you got, at the end of the day, some of those brands have stood the test of time, but they haven't been very good at switching to an online model. They haven't really adapted to current market conditions. Let's look at Gibbons. Now, I don't know what the news has been over the last couple of hours, but I think the head of Sports Direct was in the process of trying to buy Debenhams. The last thing I heard a few hours ago was that he's potentially about to pull out, and whether that's going to happen or I don't know. If that's the case, you could have Debenhams plus a number of other major high street brands just disappearing from the high streets. Now, obviously, under the wrong types of leadership, that's a major threat. And obviously, as you can see there by the top left-hand picture, that's a street in Italy in the middle of the last lockdown. And that picture below is Alex Smith, who's a bit of an advocate of our organisation, has worked with us as well. That was something when he was on a flight, and there was only 10 other people on the flight. That was around about early March time. So obviously that threat's come along to do with the pandemic. The other side of it is look at the other organisations. My lovely wife's bringing a cup of tea, which I can't complain about. Thank you very much, Finn. All right. So on the right-hand side, you'll see Amazon there. Obviously, they've really benefited from the pandemic. And I understand worldwide now, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Amazon worldwide now are responsible for employing, I think it's almost 1 million people now, actually. So a very large number of people worldwide, if you include all the delivery drivers and everyone else. Obviously, you've got Google, which have greatly benefited from the current crisis. Microsoft, Zoom benefited hugely. But there's some surprising ones there too. So, for example, what looks like a large garden shed there, people are buying them up to put them in their gardens because they want to have like a home office. You get people a rush on bathroom spas, people's gardens, outdoor heaters, all these type of things. So it's about trying to adapt your business to the new world order, if I can put it that way. Now, the thing is that this actually was written some time ago, actually. But Seth Godin is a very famous blogger, has authored, well, then he'd authored 18 books. I don't know how many he's authored now. He refers to change as not a threat, it's an opportunity. Now, we're going through times of unparalleled change, and it really is an opportunity for us to seize the moment. So remember, it is always a case of looking outwards. So what could we have done in March? We could have looked inwards and said, okay, let's pull our horns in, let's look at ourselves, do a bit of navel gazing and everything else that goes with it. Instead, we and many other business owners have taken the view that what they want to do is look how you can adapt and change, fundamentally how you can make a difference. A lot of people will revert to type at this point. So what I mean by that, they'll go back to their cave and to their perceived form of safety, when actually what they're doing is increasing their risk of failure with the business. We would argue you should always be speaking to your customers, prospects, and advocates. And the important thing is to remember that cash flow is king. And that's important, because at the end of the day, if you're making a loss, but you've actually generated a lot of cash, the chances are you will actually still live to see another day. If you run out of money, that's the biggest reason for failure with businesses. And obviously there's good money versus bad money. So what I mean by good money versus bad money, if, for example, you chose to invest in your business on new plant or equipment or marketing or something that's actually going to help you to trade through the current activities, then that's deemed as being good money. And that's an investment. Even though it's money going out of the door, that's good money. Versus bad money, which means you're actually spending money on the wrong things or possibly not spending money at all, okay? In which case your business is going to go into decline, or the overheads will far exceed your income, in which case the end result is still the same. So Muriel, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment or two. So if you could be ready with some of the comments in the chat in a minute. But crucially, it is a good time to invest in your business, so you can ride the waves of market returns. I think I'm not sure what the latest is with the bounce back loans, but we were urging people to have a really close look at, especially if you're running a business. And it was a way of getting liquidity into your business to make sure that you could spend your money on the right things and that you had got funds to see you through. It was a very low cost or form of finance and didn't require direct guarantees. I don't know, Rishi Sunak is introducing either an extension to that or where it's going to bring something else in new. Perhaps if anyone's got any thoughts on that, actually, or knows any more than I do on that, perhaps you could just type that in the chat for me. So I'll just come in onto a couple more slides, then we'll drop into Muriel. So Muriel, be ready, if that's all right. So remember to look outwards, look at how you can adapt. Don't go into your cave, speak to your customers, cash flow is king, and so on. We've sort of covered this. I think I might have, no, I've just gone backwards by mistake on a slide deck. So we're very much here to support you personally. We do care a lot about our clients. We've got, as a consequence, got some lovely people involved in the organization because they also want to give back. It is about growing your business. It is about adapting, using the social selling blueprint, putting in place what can scale your business, but everything needs to revolve around your staff, your customers, your products, and your markets. So we're going to move on to the next part of the presentation just a moment. But Muriel, do you want to just join us for a second, a few minutes, and to give us some updates of what people have been sort of saying and some feedback as well? Muriel, your mic's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Vicky said that she'd love to learn something different or new that actually brings results. So that's great. So hopefully Vicky, you'll pick up something from this presentation from Rupert. Now, Tom has said that the best way is to network with the right people where you can learn and bounce off ideas, which is great.
Before we move on, Muriel, I'm just going to come on that on the networking side. Actually, could you bring Alex's up again? I saw that. Sorry. Now that is true in networking. But what I would say is networking can be very good for getting support for yourself and for others, especially in terms of moral support. But what I would say is networking by itself, it can be a very, very lumpy way of bringing in new clients. It can be a bit like the 192 bus, where you get 2 or 3 really good referrals on the trot, and then 4 or 5 months later, and nothing else comes in, and so on. So what I would say is that's fine if you've got a business which you've largely got a lifestyle business where you're not wanting to grow it that much. If you're wanting to really grow and scale your business, you need to adopt other strategies in addition to networking. Networking on its own isn't enough if you want to develop and grow a scalable business, if that makes sense. Right. So, Muriel, any other comments?
While we're on networking, Linda's saying that networking via video conference isn't as effective, though. It stifles the natural, spontaneous conversation, which often bring prospects to a better understanding of how a business may help them. Now, sorry, I find this quite interesting, this comment, because obviously I've been to a lot of physical networking events and some online as well. And as much as I agree and I enjoy where you actually see somebody and you can interact with them, I do find that because the events are so big and there's so many people in a small area, it's very hard to speak to lots of people. You might only get round to 1 or 2. So I do feel with the online events, you can actually talk to far more people. Well, what do you think, Rupert?
I think that's a very fair point. I would be inclined to agree with what Linda's saying to a degree. I found fun enough, transacting business on video conferencing is a lot easier than people would perceive. Some of our best deals have been done with people we've never even met, for example. However, I think, I don't know, it's a bit of a personal bias, but I actually do love meeting people, and I feel I get a much greater sense of seeing someone in the flesh, because it's the body language that you miss out on, which isn't really quite the same.
Yeah.
Having said that, in terms of use of time, but if you factor in travel and all these other things as well, I think great points being made here. And it's a difficult one as well, because obviously there's all sorts of different ways of doing it. We run a lot of these ourselves, as you know, but it really is a case of trying to engage with people the right way, but also not necessarily expecting something in return straight away. Mm-hmm. Relationships are developed over time, in effect.
Yeah. So Linda Garcia, Linda said that this crisis has been a wake-up call for many SME company directors not being prepared with operating reserves.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think the trouble is, a lot of businesses are very much hand to mouth under normal circumstances. Interesting enough, I don't know what the latest is, but some of the larger charities, it may have changed a bit since then, but some of the larger charities were some of the most secure businesses out there. So I remember at one point, the RSPCA, for example, although of course they don't tell you about it, I think it's almost got 2 years of operating cash, operating money in their business into where it serves. Now, how many businesses would last more than 2 or 3 months without cash coming in, let alone 2 or 3 years? So it's a really interesting point, this whole thing about operating reserves. And of course, So,
and Thomas said regarding that, having a business with diverse activities, of course, will help overcome situations like we're currently experiencing.
Yeah, again, I'd agree with Tom on that. What I would say as well, though, is it's also about having a sense of focus, because, and I'm very guilty of this, because I'm a bit of a techno geek. I think Alex and Karen, who also, welcome Karen, by the way, would recognize that. And I have to be very careful not to keep on looking at those shiny pebbles so all the time. And yes, look at new opportunities, but also try and make sure you are very focused at the same time. I'm not disagreeing with anyone here, by the way. I'm being just deliberately provocative with some of my responses.
Okay, so Linda's been very vocal. Thank you for all your comments, Linda. Much appreciated. So many small businesses use the company account as their personal purse and don't understand their responsibility as as a company director.
Now, interesting enough, I think where that happens a lot more is where you've got people who run business more as sole traders, especially as opposed to company directors, because clearly if you start to spend company money on personal things and the business came out insolvent, then there's a real risk you could get into severe trouble over it, where, of course, in reality, in a sole trader, a lot of people will actually use the same bank account, as their joint account for that. And that's when people can really get themselves into difficulties. But yeah, certainly, Linda, that's a fair point. And if you want to get caught out by some form of corporate governance, that's the best way to get yourself into trouble, definitely.
That's lovely. We've all caught up, Rupert. So back to you.
Yeah, there's a few. Is something about Louise? Just have a look here. Was it Louise? Have I missed Louise? Louise Shuttleworth. Did I miss that from earlier on? What's that one there? Should we keep taking the self-employment take-ups plus if we need it? Louise, tell you what, could you just expand a little bit more on your question? You might need to break it into a couple of questions because the comments are too long. We can't display them on the screen. So it just obscures everything. But just
sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, just wondered. Damien said hello something earlier on, didn't he? So what Damien's saying, understand what your ideal avatar is. I know this was said a few minutes ago. Yeah, exactly. That is really important, Damien. We're going to be covering that a bit later on, as you probably know, Damien, as part of today's session. So that'd be really good. Okay, so and I can see. So Karen's raising something here. Is right, interesting. So Karen's saying, but it's your wide range of technical. Okay. Oh, thank you, Karen. I've got one supporter anyway. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. And Mike, Mike's made a point. I'm sure, Mike, you're an accountant. Otherwise, you wouldn't be suggesting that, I'm sure. Okay. Right. Okay, well, let's carry on for a bit. Now, obviously, if people would like to put themselves forward, if you've got a really good question you would like to ask, and you're keen to volunteer yourself here, we can actually bring you into what's classed as the green room, and we can actually bring you in on stage. Now, if you've got some questions, just do put those forward, put them in the chat, and we'll see where we can bring those up, okay? Right, I think, Muriel, if you make sure where we've got up to, I'll carry on for a few more minutes. We'll break out again in a few minutes, okay?
Okay, all right.
Very good. Okay, so also, the important thing is, in fact, this ties in very well with some of the points being raised, the importance of building tribes and supporters to help you achieve growth and be part of a community. And why is it important to be a good tribe leader? So where people aspire to be, like you or respect what you do. Now, obviously, these are some people who've been involved or been involved in Business Bureau up to now. There's Neil Lawson, for example, serial entrepreneur, adventurer, I should say. I think he's done 52 expeditions, been up Everest 6 times. I think a couple of times at Bear Grylls. Got caught up in the Nepal earthquake. He's also flown a microlight with a car attached from here to Timbuktu. He's also got a secret in the sense he leads the Penny Farthing Club. I think it's got about 5,000 members. So very much a tribal in his own right, ex-Marines, I believe. And but he's a good example of a tribe leader. So, and then just let's look at ordinary people doing amazing things. I won't spend too long over this because we talked about it a little bit before. But of course, Marcus Rashford, again, look what he's done for free school meals. Obviously, about Captain Tom, but Patrick Hutchinson as well, someone who's completely unknown, says he helps that person there because his love for fellow man, and we're all one people, one race. And now, of course, it's really interesting how people reinvent themselves, actually, because I saw him on, I think it's the ITV News a couple of weeks ago when they interviewed him again, and he's actually sort of reinvented himself to a large degree out of what's actually happened. So in effect, these are all individual tribe leaders in their own right. Now, so moving on from, I just lost my mouse again. There we go. the good thing is that once you start to get a little bit of presence, there's all sorts of ways you can really leverage yourself, your expertise, your knowledge, and create a really strong attraction strategy. And that can be, of course, through social media, content writing, video conferences and webinars, video and podcast creation, emails, online networking groups, blogs, and so on. And the trouble is that a lot of people get very overwhelmed by all of this. Now, what I would just touch on here is that one thing to bear in mind is that basically, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we're all commodities. If you were to look at Google or Microsoft, or if you were to look at the social media platforms, if you're going for something that's free, you are effectively the asset and the commodity. Okay, just look at what the other side of it is. Look at how we benefit. I was having this discussion with, I think it might be with Alex actually a few days ago, and the bottom line is that the difficulty with that is, for example, if you took Facebook as a case in point, you used to be able to get quite a bit of presence by putting blogs and articles through your pages on Facebook. Now, you will still get a small amount of traction, but the other side of it is that in reality, Facebook now expect you to pay to play if you want to have any form of presence. At the moment, Instagram is still pretty good, but again, it's getting more and more like that as well as we speak. And on these platforms, you either tend to invest your time or invest your money, or both. And crucially, if you do try to do this yourself, remember something's only free if you don't value your time. Now, interesting enough, I'm going to be sharing some strategies with you a little bit later on, where I'm going to really show you how you can really leverage all this stuff, where you can basically do something once and then amplify it and leverage it out multiple times. So we're going to be covering that a little bit later on today. So remember, it really is about leveraging marketing and sales efforts and doing things in such a way that you can get your time back. So I've lost my mouse. There we go. Have you considered how you can do this? And do write these points down. Now, rather frustratingly, I haven't got access to. I've got access to my other screen, but my notes on this machine over here, I had difficulty getting it on my desktop over here earlier on. So I'm going to have to just bear me a split second while I just find where I'm at in, because I can't remember all the points relating to this. So just a few things. I'm sorry I have to look away from the camera just for a moment, but just consider how you can elevate your brand so that people recognize you as being an expert. Look at how you can accelerate the relationship of trust, that people are attracted in dealing with you. And look at how you can attract much bigger audiences on multiple platforms. What you can put in place to find simple solutions to help and solve your complex problems without demanding too much of your time, and how you can create webinars, including automated webinars, so that they do the pre-selling for you. Also look at how you can create content from materials already produced to generate reports, articles, and blogs. And what you can put in place in terms of writing a book with a minimum amount of effort, because again, you're repurposing everything that you're creating, and how you can run online events or conferences, simulating as close to real-world experience as possible and attracting sponsors where appropriate. And what tools can you put in place to make your marketing efforts much more effective in business, and how you can leverage the power of LinkedIn with you being in control of results. And then also what you can put in place to develop hot prospects who are asking for more information or sales-based conversations month in, month out, and what technology you can put in place to enable you to put LinkedIn campaigns with all the heavy lifting done for you, almost an autopilot. But the crucial thing is that you're in control, and how you can be part of an active, supportive communities here to support your growth, and what you can put in place to do with hyper-personalization to your messaging and prospects, so that you can significantly increase the levels of engagement rates and therefore people respond to your campaigns, and how you can reach out to people through email and run email campaigns in a highly targeted and GDPR-friendly way without avoiding the spam traps. Now, all these points are very, very relevant. I'm sorry I wasn't quite as well prepared to remember those off by heart, but a dual screen setup is always ideal in these scenarios. Okay, now that sounds, you may feel a bit of severe overwhelm with what I've just sort of went through with you. Okay, the bottom line is, don't worry, because we've got you covered with this, and I'm going to show you. I'll be explaining how you can do it in general terms. Also, we can show you how to go about it, as part of sort of separate sessions, as it were. Now, this is all about making sure that you have everything in place to grow your business, have a very strong social selling system in place, and doing things such a way that you can grow and scale your business with your customers and clients and prospects being at the center of everything you do. And it's really about making sure you've got a balanced product portfolio, got your marketing mix right, and your social selling blueprint is the way it is. And let's look at your products as a case in point. So make sure your product pricing is right, that you've done some research. Okay, now research you can do, very good test research actually, which is funny enough, is if people want to spend money with you. And that's some of the best R&D you can actually do. But there are other ways you can do it, including running what we class as focus groups as well. And we've run a lot of those. Okay, and then it's also about looking at your product proposition, your product desirability, your marketing mix, and the position of those products. So, for example, let's take BMW as a case in point. If you saw BMW very heavily discounting their cars, you would know that would be actually harming their brand, okay? Because it's one of these cars that is seen as being almost reassuringly expensive, if that makes sense. The other thing is, what can you put in place to make sure you're oversubscribed? This photo was actually taken again in February before lockdown, as you can probably tell, when we went up to London for the day. And just 50 yards up the road, there was 2 or 3 coffee shops, and they were all empty. And yet, look at this place. It's got a queue outside. People are sometimes waiting 30 minutes to an hour to actually get in just for that experience. Okay, how can you get your business into a stage where it gets oversubscribed? So now, if you I'm just going to use ourselves as a little bit of an example here. Okay, but basically, what you need is a balanced product portfolio. So you've got products for prospects, which are free. So it could be an ebook or reports, or it could be a diagnostic, or it could be some video-based material. It could be some foundation products, some core products, which are your cash cow, and your products which are suitable for upsells, cross-sells, etc. Okay, and it's about having that balanced product portfolio. Now, what we class as foundation products. Now, that answer is going to vary from one market sector to another. But let's say you've got a product or service which sells for, about £10,000. Your product for prospects might be a sub 1K sale. Okay, but if you've got a product or service which is £500, your foundation products might be cost £5, £10, £20, £50. Okay, if you've got a product or service as a core product which is like a £250,000 sale, your product for prospects might be a £30,000 or £40,000 sale. Okay, so that answer is going to vary an awful lot by the type of company you're engaging with, the size of the company, and also that. What you need to do is make the whole sales process as frictionless as possible. So, for example, we've got one client who we've done quite a bit of work with. We'll go into more detail a bit later on, but their average value of sale is typically between £2 and £5 million. Okay, and their product for prospects is actually product for foundation products is typically like 100K spend upwards. So you can see the extremes there. Now, the reason being is that particular company has got created a software solution which is desired by banks, but it requires multiple sign-off, typically by at least 3 or 4 directors on the board, probably even by the CEO of a big bank. And the reason being is it's not so much just the investment, but this software acts as a piece of middleware, as it were, behind the scenes. And if that fails, what will happen is it could, and it's ultimately extreme, lead to things like cash point machines not working, things like that as well. So it's a very, very big strategic decision that people make. So the product for foundation products there may be that they're asked to do some form of audit or report or look at their IT systems before recommending a solution. And that might be a £50,000 or £100,000 piece of work before it leads into something much more substantive. So obviously, we're working with you, to understand a lot more about what your product for prospects, your foundation products are, and your core products are, etc. But that's really important to understand, so you make sure that you are reaching the right people. And actually, on that point, now, in fact, I'll come to that in just a minute. Actually, there's something else I'd like to mention on that, which I'm leading up to it now, is your markets, and which is your awareness, how well you're known out there. What do your ideal clients look like? What does your competition look like? How do you differentiate yourself? What is your company positioning? And in order to get that right, you need to have your marketing plan and social selling blueprint working really well for you. I'm just going to touch on this actually. I've just thought of this right now. But one of the people who's joined us very nicely, on the last one of these mini conferences, actually gave me this book here called Selling to Veto, which is a really interesting point because what the veto stands for, very important top officer. Okay. And the point they were trying to make there is, which we'd agree with, on the whole, you always want to be reaching for the most senior person in the organization. But if you can't get to reach that person, you need to reaching out to the person or people who can actually get you in there. So there'll be the ambassadors or the very important person from within who will actually sell you from within the organization. Okay. Now they could be from within the organization. They could equally be outside it. It could be you've got a certain relationship with certain partners or distributors who may also help you to get in to those contacts. So just wanted to touch on that. I thought it was quite an interesting book. But that person very kindly, a guy called Ernest, actually, I think some of you might know him, actually very kindly gave me that book, which is very kind of him. So obviously this is where the social selling blueprint comes in, which we'll go into a bit more detail a bit later on. And a few quick case studies for you. Claire Burrows, she runs a call centre in Tunbridge, or Southborough, which is near Tunbridge Wells in Kent. And through running a campaign with us, she generated 11 new clients for a call centre business within the first 6 months of working with us. Lovely lady. It is also important with any form of marketing to understand that you do need to allow the snowball effect, as we call it, to give time for campaigns to compound out. Because just because you want to sell something now doesn't mean to say that someone's ready to buy from you now. Okay, so remember, any form of marketing is also a form of investment. And Michael Romling, actually, hearing from him later on this week, he originally invested £20,000 with us and got a return on investment of £160,000. Now, interestingly enough, speaking to Michael on this week, he's actually coming on board with our new service, incorporating our Biz-Growth TimeMachine, and he's going to be starting with us in January. So the big difference is then it's not 20,000 anymore, because we've found we can now offer a technology-based solution which actually does the same thing for a lot less. But it's very exciting. Obviously, Michael's incredibly supportive of what we do, and the other way around. In fact, here we are. This is a Form 3 I was referring to earlier on. This is a company that started with 16 people about 2 or 3 years ago, about 60 people last year. I think they're up to over 100 now, and really going from strength to strength. So it's interesting to know. So what next? I'm just going to make sure we're running roughly to time, which I think we are. Just quickly checking through. Yeah, we're running pretty well to time. Probably by about 3:20, 3:30, we'll be stopping for 10 or 15 minutes for a tea or coffee break. Okay, but we'll just go through the next 4 or 5 slides. And then Muriel will go through some questions with me. So Muriel will be ready for the next part, and then we'll allow you to have your teas and coffees, as it were, for readiness for the next session for the competition. So what we're going to be looking at is obviously things like Google, Facebook, Instagram, pay-per-click, and we'll also go into more detail about LinkedIn and how you can create a continual lead flow of new opportunities coming through, and how you can think about your ideal type of clients, the avatars of them, and be reaching out that way, and how you can avoid expensive pay-per-click. Now just remember, with your pay-per-click, your hard-earned cash, it's very important these times to make sure you're spending money really wisely, and you keep your hard-earned cash in your pocket, or use it very wisely to invest in your business. With what we're talking about here, there's absolutely no pay-per-click whatsoever involved with anything we're talking about today. Now, it doesn't mean to say it's not right for the right person or right business, but what we're saying is it can, be literally a case of, pouring money down the drain. So remember, a click is just a click, and there are multiple points of failure. If you get it wrong, then obviously it can be a very costly mistake. And why is it much more of an issue now than it was a few years ago? Well, the reason is that these days it's got so competitive, and Google and they've got so smart, and so Facebook with their advertising, is that really you can't get away with just one landing page anymore. You need to really have multiple landing pages, okay? And the reason being is that if you don't do that, what will happen is, based on your certain amount you want to pay per click, you just won't get decent rankings on Google unless they're highly optimized. Or if you are going to get decent rankings, you have to pay exorbitantly for them, okay? And Google now is smart enough to know that if you've got to place an advert in based around certain keywords, using keywords, that your landing page, the wording on that landing page needs to reflect what's said on the keywords. So it's actually not uncommon to have perhaps 5 or 10 different landing pages to suit, or you can do some other things now where the landing page dynamically creates the content itself based on the key phrase or keywords. Okay, now that sounds incredibly complex, and it's not that straightforward, to be frank. But that does make a big difference. If you don't do things the right way, you can literally be pouring money down the toilet, because you'll find that your return investment just won't be there. Okay, because you'll find you're spending too much money on the clicks. If you factor in a click is just a click, the people then have to get to your website. You might only have their attention for 5 to 8 seconds. Okay, they then have to opt into something. Well, that's just an email address. Okay. People then, you might have some form of offers around there. The chances are they won't go for those offers straight away. You'll have to nurture them through a process. And at any particular point, things can fail during that process. Now, if you do get it right, it can work really well. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just simply saying if you go in it with your eyes wide open. And then what is going to give you the faster return investment? Well, you can see here some examples of free or almost free or paid for, okay? And it does go back to how much you value your time. Now, there are some things which are actually so unfashionable that actually they become, because they're unfashionable, hardly anyone's doing it, it can work surprisingly well. So, for example, direct mail through the post can work very well now, because hardly anyone's doing it and it's so expensive, okay? But it works much better if you tie that in with other campaigns that you're actually running. So let's discuss, as part of this next session, how for every 100 cold leads in your chosen target market, you can be attracting 10 hot prospects, okay? And without doing any pay-per-click, how you can also increase your profits by attracting higher value clients and leverage your time so you're getting more billable work and build scale much more into your business. Now with LinkedIn, there's 675 million users on the platform, okay, of which about 25 million are in the UK. And let's say 18 or 19 million of those are pretty active. The other 5-6 million are fairly dormant. That's still a very good market to go for if we're in the business-to-business space as well, okay? It is the #1 business professional social network, okay? And the average person on LinkedIn earns way above the national average wage. And businesses say that if they use social media for bringing in business clients, that LinkedIn is particularly effective. It can work very well in the B2C space, that's business to consumer space, but it works better if you've got a higher value product or sale, or if you want to get into distributors or resellers or wholesalers, okay, because of course they will be themselves on LinkedIn, okay? And for example, it can work in unexpected sectors. So, for example, we've got a lady that specializes in Arabian tents, and the average hire for a 4-day hire is actually about £10,000, okay? Because they're all beautifully lined. They've got Moroccan furniture in there, lovely Oriental rugs. It's a real experience, and they'll be used a lot for film wrap parties. They'll be used for 25th or golden wedding anniversaries, those type of things. And so that can work very well on something like LinkedIn, because we're all individual consumers as well. We all have mums, dads, grandparents, where things are going on, or we certainly know of people in that space. And also the reach on LinkedIn is vast. So if you've got 400 connections on LinkedIn, your average reach, if you factor in your second and third level connections, is 60 million people. Now, of course, LinkedIn's only ever going to return a tiny number of those results, because you have to segment and microsegment again, but we can show you how to do that. And also because it's one of these platforms which has greatly benefited from the pandemic as well, the engagement rates are higher than ever, and it's a great place to find new clients. However, and there's a big however or but here, you have to go through the first dance, okay? Don't try and go in and overtly sell straight off the bat. In fact, Muriel, I think you were having a conversation. In fact, Muriel might as well come in now, actually. Muriel's having a conversation before this call, actually. I won't say who with, because some of you might know the person concerned. But let's put it this way, he's a very well-known sales trainer. But Muriel did make the point, you know, you have to go through that first dance first. You can't just go in and try and harvest people on LinkedIn and go and sell, okay? Because that is a very good way of upsetting people and getting people to disengage, okay? So the thing here is, if your profile's not well optimized, you know, how many opportunities are you actually missing along the way? And what we're going to be talking about during the coffee break is what I would suggest you think about and be ready for the next part is understanding a lot more about your ideal type of target clients and your routes to market. And what would be really interesting is when you come back, you know, type some of those thoughts or comments in the chat, and let's try and pick up on some of those. If you know, what we can do is bring you in if you're up for it, as being part of the live stream itself, and you can ask your questions directly and make it much more interactive and much more fun. So, Muriel, before we sort of do a little bit of wrap up on this break before the coffee break, as it were, what sort of comments or questions have we got so far?
Okay, so Linda Garcia said that she's recently been persuaded to stop offering free initial consultations for that exact reason, which is something you were covering earlier. Yeah,
I think it's really interesting with that. I think if you get to a point, which Linda, you may well have, where you are regarded very much an authority in your own space, then people don't necessarily value your time. And first of all, it makes it very difficult to leverage what you're actually doing. But also because people don't necessarily value your time, then it's you've got the same old problem. They're the ones that probably will never spend money with you. Now, I must admit, I do tend to take a little bit the opposite view on that, but that's a personal thing because I like to make myself readily available. But of course, it does get very difficult at times. So obviously, this is one of the reasons we run these mini conferences, because it does enable us to have a one-to-many relationship and get to know people on scale.
You were saying that she was spending 3 to 5 hours with prospects, giving a lot of advice, a basic solution with no return if the client chose not to go ahead.
Yeah, and again, I think there are things that could be put in place to do that as well. So, for example, what Muriel and I have got a little scheme going as well between us. And Muriel will quite often have a short discovery call with someone first, make sure that there is a good basic fit. And usually with that first call, we give a little bit of signposting, so that might be to a mini conference, a bit like today. But it also could be to take part in a webinar. It could be to watch some videos. Equally, if someone wants to take some form of action straight away, clearly that's given a much higher ranking, and potentially that's then escalated through to me. Now, that's obviously a really good way of leveraging that. Now, Michael Romling, interesting enough, who's speaking on Thursday, we'll probably touch on that. But one of the reasons he's very successful with the campaign he did with us is that what he did is he knew that his average value of sale was typically a minimum of £50,000, typically up to a couple of £100,000. And he was actually only wanted to work at director level within PLCs. So you're talking about very large clients. And what he did is he set up a virtual PA, a lovely lady called Fiona. And she handles all the initial interest that's been generated from the LinkedIn campaigns we do for him, fields the initial call, makes sure there's a bit of a fit there. And then at that point, then what Michael does, he then takes over at that stage. And let's put it this way, if you were to speak to Michael, he would be able to sell snow to Eskimos without you even knowing that he's actually doing that to you, because he actually is so charming and so nice. Everyone just loves him. And I think Muriel was smiling at that one because So again, that's another really good strategy
And Vicky, bless her, she's a bit like me, I think. She had a similar experience, and unfortunately for her, Vicky has said that I go straight to resolve mode, and by the end of the call, they felt so good and clear that they didn't need they didn't need any help from her.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And fun enough, my wife always has this debate with me because she always tells me off and says that she feels always share too much value on these sessions. But
we like to help, don't we? We like to help people.
Yeah,
do. Okay, Charlotte, she can certainly identify with that. I don't always find a way to transition people into paying customers.
Yeah, and I think, Charlotte, this is a very common thing with coaches, trainers, mentors, consultants. It's because, we're just lovely, caring people. We just love to wrap people up in cotton wool and, everything else. And I think, Charlotte, you're just one of these people a little bit like that. So somehow it's probably a case of just thinking about how you can repackage yourself and represent yourself so people do value what you do and are prepared to pay for it. So hopefully you don't think I'm being too brutal there, but yeah.
Right, Mike, I'm not sure what he's asking really. He's saying, can you send your notes later? Now, I'm not sure whether he's talking about the slides or the notes that you read off a different screen.
Yeah, okay. Now, with these here, we don't actually make the PowerPoint slides available after the events. What we do, though, is make the recordings available. So what you will be able to do is to go to our website under the TV video sections and look for previous live streams. And you should see shortly after the session is finished today, the recording of today's session. So that's the best way to do it, if that helps.
That's lovely. Thank you, Rupert. Okay, Linda. Right. I personally believe LinkedIn is a great platform for business to business, but not so much for business to customer. It does work for all industries so long as it's used properly. I've paid for a couple of LinkedIn consultations to help my profile and have received inquiries through LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's good. No, thank you, Linda, for that. The big thing with that is being able to do that now on scale, Linda. So the nice thing is we know it works. A lot of you on this call today, we've met through LinkedIn. Okay, so that's really good. However, what a lot of people do is, again, they go back to, I'm not saying it's you, Linda, by the way, but because people don't value their time, they try and do it themselves, and they use LinkedIn as quite a passive platform. In reality, it's a really good way of finding clients. So probably a case of being a bit strategic over that.
Okay, so Linda agrees with your snowball effect. Had a client spend heavily on Google Ads and wondered why he got no return after 3 months and he gave up.
Yeah. So we hear that quite a bit, unfortunately. A nice comment from Karen there. So it sounds as if Michael Romilly will get an even better return on investment when he starts using our time machine. Thank you for that, Karen. Yeah, that's lovely. It's going to be a good fun working Michael again. I'm dying to see him where he lives in Scotland, because he lives in this most beautiful spot on the edge of the coast. And but one day I'll probably descend on him without him realising it, but he doesn't know that yet.
Linda, oh right, was that where Barnaby got his tent from for his 50th birthday party? I don't know. Was it, Rupert?
Actually, good point. I didn't realise we were there, Linda, actually. That's interesting. We'll have a conversation afterwards. Yes, I was there. It's his 57th birthday, because everything has to end with a 7. So he's not celebrating his 60th or 50th. He was celebrating his 57th birthday. But no, I think he just separately had it. I don't think it was... I don't know, actually. I might be wrong, Linda, on that one. So I'll say I don't know, just in case. Yeah, good. Okay. Any others comments? We've got that. Yeah, so Linda's, I think we're missing this one here, aren't we, Muriel?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, it's not that one.
Yeah, it was his 57th. That one, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Linda. Well, actually, interesting enough today, this new service is one of the things we're asking you to do at the end is complete a questionnaire. It's for the competition, but also we're going to ask you to indicate what interests you most, because we are trying to find out. We always like to validate our plans. Being a typical entrepreneur, I always got great vision and belief that things will happen and will work. But yes, so Linda will naturally be doing that a bit later on. So thank you very much for your very kind offer.
Lovely. And there's one last comment there from Linda.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Charlotte Lee. I'm thinking Charlotte Leon. Yeah, Charlotte Lee. One of the changes I made was to stop emailing proposals, but set up a second meeting to work through it face to face. Her conversion rate doubled in that year. Well done, Linda.
Yeah, yeah. I'd agree with that, Linda, because the thing is, at the end of the day, sales are really made through relationships. So one of the things is, and a number of things we hear from people as well, is they go through into this mindset. Well, I'll go and create an automated webinar, as a case in point. Okay, and that means I don't have to speak to customers until they, they're really serious, one move ahead. That can work. But in reality, that worked a lot better a few years ago. Where that can work now is where you plug in what we class as a short discovery call before you direct someone to a webinar, or if it's an automated webinar, be honest enough to say that it's like an on-demand webinar or a just-in-time webinar. Okay, because people, even though these days you can make them very, very interactive, very clever, and we use them ourselves. Okay, at the end of the day, people aren't stupid. People don't mind if you're very honest with them about it. And in fact, you can share lots of value that way. So yes, I would still argue that a phone call, the introductory stage, is still worthwhile doing. Any other ones that we missed, Muriel? I think Tom has made a comment to me, and yeah, and then what's the next one after that?
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Well, I think what we'll do is let's have a very quick summary. We'll go for a tea or coffee break. Just maybe a second. So what we've covered as part of part one is about gaining market insights, building tribes, achieving growth, having a balanced portfolio of products, getting a marketing mix right, and a social selling blueprint. We've had an exploratory conversation about creating content, repurposing, redistributing, and how you can reach a global audience. We're going to go into more detail on that in part two. And part two is going to be also discussed about LinkedIn techniques to find high value clients. And we'll be discussing again about systems and tools to leverage your efforts. So bring your sales forward, get your time back, and it's basically amplifying everything you do and what you can put in place with Biz-Growth TimeMachine. So anyway, I think for part one, that's a little bit of a wrap. I'm pleased to say we've run virtually to time, actually. It's worked out really well. Can I suggest now, if we all start again at 3:35 p.m., so that's 12 and a half minutes from now, give or take. So 3:35 p.m., if we could all be back here and ready to go. What I'll do is I'll just leave a holding slide up just for a few minutes, and we'll see you all at 25 to 4 promptly, okay, in readiness for the next part and the competitions. Thank you very much for joining us so far. Yeah, thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'll need about an extra 2 minutes, if that's right. I'm just trying to make sure I'm ready for the next section, so please bear with me just a moment. We'll be with you in a moment or two. Muriel, if you could take over just for a minute, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Oh gosh, Rupert, you've caught me on the hop. I've only just sat down. Oh dear. Right, well, hopefully everyone's back with us. You all had your cup of tea or whatever. Lovely. Okay, let's have a look here. Oh dear, Tom, started to rain in Cyprus. Poor you. Poor you. I bet you're glad of the rain. I know you don't have a lot. We've had more than our fair share. But there you go. Interesting comment that Alex has put here. Okay, so Alex, my team won a number of large deals where I told them to refuse to tell the client how they would do it during the proposal stage, only what the outcome would be. Procurement bods hate it, but the deal sponsors understood and accepted. Oh, well done. Well done, Alex.
I'll be with you all in just a moment. I'm having to go through about all my notes because I can't get it on the screen at the moment. Won't be a moment. I'll be with you in a moment.
Okay, don't worry, Rupert. Yes, exactly, Linda. Even Cyprus needs a watering now and again, I'm sure. Thank you, Terry, and welcome back to you. Vicky, you're back with us. Excellent. At least it's at night. Tom, tell me, do you get spectacular thunder and lightning storms that Ibiza get? Because they are, honestly, they're amazing. Scary, but, you know, the way the sky lights up over there is unbelievable. Okay, and Karen Davies, Alex agrees with your comment. Okay, so Karen's saying one being that you don't want to give too much away free. Thanks, Alex. Agree, knowledge is powerful. That's come from Tom. Super. Tom, yes, we do get some firework effects. I know in Athens they get spectacular storms, Vicky. What's your link with Athens, Vicky? Is that holidaying or do you go over there a lot? As I said, one of my boys is in Ibiza, so we always go at least once a year. And of course, this year we haven't been, so I'm going to make up for it next year and go twice. So, lovely. How are you doing, Rupert?
I'm ready to go. Hopefully you can hear me.
You're ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I think everyone's everyone's quiet and ready for you. Okay,
Lovely.
I'll take it backstage and leave it with you.
Well, Muriel, just if you could pick up, I heard a couple of bits going in the background, but is there any particular points or questions that come up from the last few minutes?
Well, yeah, this was interesting from Alex. My team won a number of large deals where I told them to refuse to tell the client how they would do it during the proposal stage, only what the outcome would be. Procurement bods hate it, but the deal sponsors understood and accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where that probably is a bit easier, fun enough, is actually more in the large business corporate space, because I think they sort of tend to expect that if you're where you're perhaps selling a softer skill and you're selling to a much smaller client, sometimes it can be seen as being a little bit mean or unhelpful. Now, I'm being a bit deliberately provocative there, Alex, so you come back on me if you feel that's wrong or you want to make some points around it. But I'm actually just being deliberately taking an opposite point of view.
Alex has been an absolute gentleman here. Linda should get the credit for this thread of discussion, really not giving things away. She and Tom have been posting some good advice.
Yeah, lovely. I think Tom's been busy as well, hasn't he? So, yeah, so it's all right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting over there inside this. Right. So I think what we'll do is get started again. One of the reasons I had a slight pause is interesting enough, I've been experimenting with one of the new M1s, an Apple Mac Mini, because the real problem I was having a green screen before was massive amounts of buffering to the extent I couldn't use it anymore. But it seems to handle it really well. Having said that, it did crash just before the session today, so it's meant I've had to revert to my paper notes and a couple of things here. So bear with me a little bit today. Anyway, let's get moving. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their short break, and we're on the home stretch, as it were, and we've got the competition to look forward to as well. And as part of today, we're going to be covering this, which we've already summarized before the break. And what we're going to be talking about now is about how to increase sales. And as part of that, how you can define and own your market, present yourself as the expert and don't hide, what you can put in place to follow the social selling blueprint, know your numbers and plug into our expert systems, and so on. So we're going to more detail on this. So we talked a little bit earlier on about the social selling blueprint. The crucial point here is about how you can create a predictable, repeatable system which will give you consistent sales month in, month out. And there is honestly a way that you can do that. The big thing is that it's much better if you can fish rather than hunt, as far as this is concerned. If you can get people largely coming to you rather than you having to hunt for them, then it's obviously a lot better. Now, there's lots of times when actually the old methods do still work, but these days people are much more resistant to cold calls than they were some years ago. What we feel is really important is if you do things the right way, you'll be very much in complete control of the sales process, and it will give you much more a positive outcome in terms of achieving what you want, and will create demand and predictability so that people are actually asking for what you have to offer. The crucial thing is are you creating the engine for growth? You know, is your business a very relatively static business? As a consequence, when the pandemic came along, you were very, very badly hit, or have you been able to adapt and restructure your business so it can move much forward based on the current times? Now, just a bit of a quick catch up. These are some of the past clients or clients that we're serving. Now, not because I'm not showing this as some bragging rights or anything like this, but the crucial thing I wanted to show here is it's really about breaking potential prospects into segments and then micro segments. So what you'll see there is the top left, for example, PayPal Giving. It's the charity on PayPal. That's one of our clients. Obviously, you get financial services and insurance. That's a big chunk in its own right. You've got business services, which includes people like the call center that I mentioned earlier on. Deloitte's under legal and accounting, coaching, consulting. That's another big sector. Then you've got tech and software companies, charities, and events hospitality. Now, in reality, those sectors themselves are massive. There's 147 industry classifications on LinkedIn. And in real terms, you have to segment and micro-segment it more than that. But I just wanted to sow the seed of thought in your mind. And also, for example, these two lovely people here, one of our clients as well, Anthony and Don. They came aboard when we first launched the extension of our service in September last year, and we helped them. They're two joint CEOs, and have been friends since the age of 4 years old. And the one on the right, who's the shorter one wearing the scarf, he's the one that's very driven, very determined. Dom on the left is actually very laid back, and that was causing certain challenges in their business, which they've given me permission to openly talk about. And so we worked a lot with them both, and also with their team, and then also in terms of generating a marketing campaign for them, so they got a strong lead flow of new opportunities. But lovely, lovely people, very strong. Obviously, were hit by the pandemic, but we're able to pivot and adjust. And from what I understand, they're doing still very well now. And you know, fundamentally, we have your success in mind. We've already talked about this before. What you're going to discover now is LinkedIn advanced strategies to find high-value clients and how to warm up those sales-based conversations. And the thing we talked about earlier on is avoid being a generalist, be niche and micro-niche, and make sure you have a suite of products to suit different price points. So, in our particular case, we've got what we class as a balanced portfolio of products. And that's really important because, at the end of the day, what is a small client today can become a very big client tomorrow. And 147 industry sectors in LinkedIn. If you start to try and think of your ideal client avatars, okay, so in this case, it might be a Bob and a Jane, okay, and then start to build around that, then that gives you a really good basis in terms of determining how you should reach out to them. And it's also about presenting yourself as the expert and not hiding. It's about making sure your LinkedIn profile is well optimized, build on your expertise and credibility and authenticity. And in particular, your LinkedIn profile, this is the type of structure we recommend here, rather than what you would see other people do. And the way it's done, broadly speaking, is that you would introduce yourself, because people buy into you as a person. Your strapline at the top needs to be really strong. You need to lead into your company, an organization, your core proposition. Then what we recommend is having 4 or 5 key pain points that your potential clients can identify with, because people buy, unfortunately, on elements of pain. And then 5 or 6 bullets, which deal basically with the solutions or problems that you solve. Having a bit of a sales hook, which might be a link to a diagnostic or a video, or it might be your calendar link. And we suggest also repeating your phone numbers at the bottom. Okay, now the reason that's important is, first of all, it follows the principles of AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, action. The second thing is, if you're not a first level connection with someone, and they're not in your network, you only get very limited contact information. So we suggest putting it down there, because at least you're making yourself easily accessible. Now, you would think it would be a real problem, this. And, I've personally got, nearly 26,000 connections on LinkedIn. You sort of expect that, because obviously it is our line of work. But you would think I'd be bothered all the time by people trying to just call me out on spec. Now, that does happen. These things, at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a marketplace like anything else. But at the same token, it's not so much it's a problem. And I would actively encourage people to think differently as far as that's concerned. It is also about accelerating the relationship of trust and presenting yourself as the expert. And the number of people we come across who really hide their existence, they wonder why they don't get any business. Well, it's, first of all, because they're not optimized their LinkedIn profile properly, but also they're relying on people coming to them. In reality, life doesn't work like that. If you want a business which is going to stay static or possibly over time fizzle out and die, then take no action. It's about being much more proactive, especially in the current market. And it's also more important too than ever. If you're in the coaching, mentoring, training space, it's an incredibly competitive field. Just do a search on professional training and coach on LinkedIn. See how many people come up. They're your competitors, in effect. Now, some of them, of course, are very complimentary to you, but also the biggest competitor out there is actually YouTube. Look at how much content you can get for free on YouTube. Okay, so just bear that in mind. You've really got to stand out. Make sure recommendations factor highly in your profile. People do really buy on recommendations, things like videos, PDFs, all those type of things. People love to see. Also follow what we class social selling blueprint, which is lead generation, prospect nurturing, sales optimization. And to go into this a little bit more detail now, because this is the LinkedIn part before we move on to the other parts. The important thing is to understand that you could have the best sales closing rate in the world, but if you've got virtually no prospects coming through because you've got a really poor nurturing process, or equally you haven't got enough leads coming at the top, you've got a problem, because if one cog's not turning, the others can't turn. Equally, if your prospect nurturing process is broken, guess what? You're not going to be able to support. There's no point throwing more leads at it, because you're going to just pouring money down the toilet again. Equally, if you get all these opportunities presented to you, and you either just give away value for free all the time, or you're just really poor at closing, or people just don't want your product or service, then that's an issue in itself. So the important thing is, you imagine at the very top of the cog, the first cog, that is where your bucket is. That's where all your leads are coming at the top. That's the part that should be your lead generation system, okay? And with the prospect nurturing process, it's about putting in place a 5-message process. I'll come on to that in just a moment. So let's look at an avatar of a client, okay? So let's say you're trying to find people like a Jane or a Bob. They're the industry sector of computer software. You want to reach them either director, CXO, partner, or owner level, the company, and you want to reach them within, say, a 100-mile radius of central London, or it could be New York or wherever you are, and you want to reach out to people who are your second or third level connections, and you would want to do a search based on the phrase business analyst, okay? Now, you can do all that on LinkedIn. That's if you go upgrade to Sales Navigator, you've got very powerful search capabilities in there. And ideally, Sales Navigator will give you a max of 2,500 records as part of a search results. In real terms, we suggest working with much smaller segments than that. It might be 400 to 600, not several thousand, okay? And the reason being is you want to be able to test and evaluate your campaigns out before you go too big on it, because you can just spend time engaging with people who are not in your chosen target market. And it's also about pre-selecting people in the right way. Then it's also about having a really good 5-message process. So you've got your bucket, which is effectively the first cog with your leads coming in. You've got the connection request there. So that's when you first reach out to someone. So let's say for every 100 people you're reaching out to, 10 of those out of every 100 should be either asking for more information or a sales-based conversation. So that means out of 100 connection requests you send out, between 30 and 50 will accept your connection request. Then it's a case of putting in a process where the next message, for example, the permission to engage, is a message that you send out not to sell. It's actually about sharing a value. So that might be a PDF or whatever it may be. And that ideally should be a very short message, okay? Because at that stage, it's about acceleration of trust with the prospects, okay? The next message after the time follow-up, ideally we recommend going in with one very short question. Again, a very short message, which, bear in mind with the way LinkedIn displays things in its inbox, you can see the previous part of the conversation as part of that mix, okay? Then the qualifying pitch message, we suggest with that one, you are a bit more bullish. You do say a little bit more about what you do. If your LinkedIn profile's been optimized the right way, then everything supports everything else. So, but with this one, you can be a bit more bullish. We suggest sharing something that's more meaty this time around, perhaps more of a white paper or a thought leadership piece or something else, a video. It could be a link to a diagnostic. And here we do suggest putting your phone number and email address at the bottom under your signature strip as well. Okay, now it's the only time we would suggest it, because if you're doing using a 5-message process, that's the 4th message, okay? And what you'll find as people go through this process, they get hotter through the process, they want to engage and go from there. And then the time follow-up is where, again, we recommend going with a different killer question, okay? Now, your process may be different. This is not rigid. For example, in our particular case, we do a 6-message process for ourselves, okay, where we're reaching out to people, but that's because of the way we created our collateral, okay? But what we've found is these numbers overall tend to work very well. Now, if you're trying to do this manually, to start with, it's relatively easy because you're not dealing with large numbers. But believe me, after a few weeks, you very quickly lose the will to live. And you're starting to spend an extraordinary amount of time in it because you start to really have to track people through Excel sheets, and it becomes, to be frank, a nightmare. So we've got a really good solution which make that a lot easier for you. And again, we talked about it being a lot easier to fish. The 4th thing is really it's about understanding your numbers. Now, if I'm looking here at an example of, say, a technology company which may have a high recurring revenue stream, or an accountant or someone very similar. So let's say in the first year, the fees were £10,000 for the average value of sale. So it might be some sales of 30, 40,000, others worth 2,000 or 3,000, but the average is say 10K over a year. And it might be the same client over 3 years. It's not worth 30,000. Perhaps it's worth 25,000 because you get an element of churn in there. And then over 5 years, the same client, because of a higher level of churn, might be worth 35,000. Excuse me a second, just have a sip of water, website. Okay, now, so with this scenario, what we've got here is that this is based on 3 new leads per month or 36 leads per year. And that would, as part of a 1-year campaign, that would generate £360,000 of revenue. Over 3 years from the same 1-year campaign, 900,000, and over 5 years, 1.26 million. Excuse me a second. Perhaps that wasn't so good idea. I love ginger, but it tends to get to my throat sometimes. So I shouldn't drink. I shouldn't have had that. Have to stick to water. So this is not some black art here. If you were to put these numbers in a calculator, that's what they would actually equal. Okay, but why is this so important? Well, it helps you to determine what you can really afford to invest in clients. Muriel, I'm going to bring you in just a second. Wait a second. So Muriel, just for a second, can you just fill some messages here? Because I need to have a sip of water. I'm going to have a coughing fit.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so Linda has said that so many business owners that she's consulted with have no numbers whatsoever to support their growth plans. Yeah, are you okay?
Sorry, I am now. Switch my microphone. Yeah, sorry about that.
Bless you. You need to suck a sweet, Rupert.
Yeah, I do. It's talking.
Yeah. So what are your views on that comment from Linda?
Yeah, I think the trouble is a lot of people just don't know the answers to it. I mean, the bottom line is it's actually a really simple calculation, this one, because all you do is you look at your total turnover and then look at your total number of customers you've taken over the last year who've paid something, and that becomes your average value of sale. Mm-hmm. And obviously you may want to be a lot more analytical than that, but actually if you took that at a very basic level, that would give you a really good idea. And the reason why it's so important is that if your average value of sale is very low, let's say you've got a product or service which is below £1,000, you're going to have to get a lot more sales through the till, as it were, to actually cover any marketing you do. And you may find that the cost of customer acquisition, if you do it the wrong way, is higher than it would be the income you're actually receiving, especially if you factor in, your gross profit margin, your costs, and things like that as well. So it's really important to understand those numbers. Now I'm going to actually drill down on this in a little bit more detail. If you look at it another way, just get my mouse back. Let's say you've got a business which is turning over 250,000 a year, and you want to grow it to £400,000 or dollars per year. Well, by taking every month of taking no action, it's costing your business £12,500. Okay, and the same as if your business is turning over 5 million, you want to get £7.5 million, it's cost you £208,000 per month in lost opportunity costs. So when people turn around and say, actually, I'll just wait another 3 months, or because I need to do ABC, or my website's not ready, for example, then in real terms, that's costing you and your business a lot of money. Now, if I got a creative phrase here a while ago, which on the face of it looks obvious, where it says, well, remember, if nothing changes, everything stays the same. In fact, I would actually argue that you're going backwards, not forwards. And it's at times like this, it's really important to understand this. So let's look at this. Let's take the fact you want to go from 250,000 a year to 400,000 a year. That if by every month of no action, that's costing you £12,500 per month in lost opportunity cost. Okay, and of course you can never ever get that time back. You can spend more money moving forwards or take action moving forwards. But in reality, but let's take another thing here. Let's say you took no action, which again is a real situation where, especially now, you'd be quite, people we speak to them are saying our income's dropped to 35%, 50%, 75%. I've lost almost all my customers. Let's say it's dropped 35% because you've taken no action. The lost opportunity cost there is not £12,500 per month. It's £19,375 per month. Again, this isn't a black art. If you get a calculator out, you can work it all out. So if you make no changes, the chances are you are actually going backwards. So it's a really, really important thing just to bear in mind. Now, on that particular point, what I'd just like to touch on here as well is we go back to LinkedIn as a case in point. With the first part, this is to do with the LinkedIn profile optimization and making sure you get your search right. We always recommend, irrespective of who you use, whether it's us or someone else, you should always retain control of that part yourself. Never outsource that. Or if you must outsource parts of it, make sure the person you're getting to help you on it is really knowledgeable about your business, almost as knowledgeable as you. Okay. The reason being is that, let's say you wanted to find business analysts from technology and software companies. LinkedIn may return a result of 2,500 records. You may segment it down again. That narrows it down to say 750 records. We recommend you preview that data set on LinkedIn and then pre-select only those ones you want to engage out to. So let's say that 750 comes down to 550. That's your 550 you want to target. Now that's what you put in the very top of your bucket or into the lead generation system there. And there's a saying, there's rubbish in, rubbish out. The converse is true, of course, if you make sure that good quality leads coming into the top. Okay. So then what you need to do is you need to have that really good prospect nurturing process. Now that is what you can use to do quite a bit of heavy lifting for you. Okay, that's where you can use technology to help you. So if you took the case in point of Michael Romling, we were referring to earlier on, we created a whole process. At that time, we had a team of 18 people in the Philippines who were helping us to run campaigns for clients. We still kept 2 or 3 people on, but in reality, because of the way technology has advanced over the last year or so, tragically for those guys and girls, we've still found a way of looking after them. But it was meant that technology has replaced the need for human beings to a large part of this. Okay, but the big thing is that what is really important is that the technology platform you use is smart enough so that when someone replies, it automatically stops, so you can personally take over and then reply and then decide whether you want to put back into the campaign again or take that person completely offline and have a phone conversation and go from there. Okay, but the big thing is that middle part there, the prospect and nurturing process, so you can get technology to do all the heavy lifting for you. Then the third part is this part we don't generally recommend outsourcing. Again, it depends on your product or service. I can describe some experiences we had ourselves over outsourcing on the sales side, not through this business, but elsewhere. It doesn't matter whether people are very nice people or very experienced in what they do. People can never sell your proposition as well as you do, typically speaking. So think very carefully about outsourcing the sales part. Okay, it's always better it's dealt with internally by you or your business development managers, who of course working very closely with you. Okay, so that's what can give you some real leverage. We'll come back to in a moment. We've talked about Michael Romling already. A few other quick case studies for you. Lorna Leonard, an interim financial director. She's an introvert of the extreme. She loves numbers. She hates, doesn't hate speaking to people, but she's very uncomfortable speaking to people. But through a campaign with us, she managed to generate a £30,000 contract within the first 10 days. Now, it's not normally as quite as quick as that, in fairness, but nevertheless, it did work for her, and that was great. Now, Nick Aldridge, CEO of PayPal Giving, he's the CEO of the UK, US, and Australasia arm of PayPal Giving. I've got to know him reasonably well, and we've done a lot of data enrichment work with them. But it's very nice to be trusted by an organisation such as PayPal Giving. Susanna Schofield, OBE, done quite a bit of work with her. And Jubilee Sailing Trust, this can work very well for charities too. So we help them to raise £270,000 worth or $350,000 worth of sponsorship for private charters as well, over a period of about 18 months as part of a campaign. So in these times of massive disruption, you may want to consider these different points. The first thing is to make sure you adapt to the new market with business growth in mind. Don't expect what happened yesterday to happen today. Obviously, we know what's happened this year. In reality, will it be the same next year as it was last year? Almost certainly it won't be. We've probably accelerated the development of what was going to happen anyway by 5 to 10 years. So, for example, if you look at the retail sector alone, even as the market returns, you will find the high street almost invariably will never be the same again, simply because of the fact people have changed their buying habits. Now, that would have probably happened anyway but it would have taken 5 to 10 years. What has happened now, it's brought that forward very quickly. And it's going to probably mean there's lots of opportunities for other sectors as well. It's also important to understand the importance of tribes, making sure people we talked about referrals earlier on, make sure people have got a referral mindset when working with you, but also present yourself as being the expert so people see you as a tribe leader, because then that way people are drawn to you, attracted to you, and want to interact. And then you need to have a well-oiled marketing and sales machine. Okay, we're going to go into a bit more detail on this in just a moment. And you also need to reflect what may break you, and also what you put in place. And if you can find out what makes you, then you can scale that. Okay, but what you don't want to do is scale something when it's already broken. And also look at what you put in place where you could do the job once and use technology to dramatically increase reach. Now, this isn't particularly about LinkedIn. There's lots of other things that are going to come onto in just a moment, which is completely new, which is starting from January the 1st. So think about all the people who are going to actively support you around you. Obviously, this is one of the reasons we set these regular live streams up. We've actually changed our networking events, network collaboration events, to monthly events. It's actually starting from now. So it's the second, if I remember correctly, it's the second Thursday of every month now. But the live streams are weekly. We find it's really successful. What we want with the networking collaboration events is to make those a little bit larger so people really look forward to those. But the big thing is to remember that we're here to help you. Now, Muriel, could you just join in for a few seconds? Because I'd like to just look at a few questions or comments before we move on to the next part, if that's okay. So, okay.
I hate to say, Rupert, I think everyone's having a snooze. We've had no comments or questions at all. I think they're all really absorbing what you're telling them. So.
You're paying me lots of very nice compliments, but I think there's a few here we can pick up on, actually. Well,
John did ask about will we be uploading this later for viewing, and I've explained yes, and I've told him how to get onto it, which is www.businessgrowthbureau.com, and then you need the TV and videos tab, and then previous weekly live stream recordings, and it will be there for you.
Yeah, good, excellent. Thank you for the comments. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to John Rawlinson. John, where are you? There you go. So John is in Cyprus, I believe. I haven't seen you for about 2 or 3 years. Lovely to see you on the call, John. So I'll give you a little bit of a shout out there. Hopefully you've settled well into your villa now. You've sorted all your problems out. So just have a look here. No, right, okay, just a quick scan to see whether there's anything else that we might be missing.
There you go. Linda's busy listening to detail. I thought so, because there's a lot to absorb in this section.
Yeah. Okay, right. Oh, you know Susanna Schofield. That's interesting. Yeah, she's an amazing woman. She's changed her route to market a little bit now, actually. So good. Thank you, Terry. That's really appreciated. Nice to have one person who's still awake. So. All right, no, that's good. Okay, so what we'll do then, but we're coming up. We've actually covered this in very good time. So if anyone would like to put themselves forward and would like to come up on the virtual green room or stage, do put yourself forward in the chat, and we will try and bring you in as part of this conversation. But in the meantime,
I actually think that Linda Garcia ought to join us on stage, because she's given lots of valuable input. So. Linda, think about whether you'd like to join us. Yeah,
you've got to think of a good question, though, Linda. Yeah. You're going to do that. Anyone who comes on stage has got to think of a good question or have a really good story to tell. Okay, so right, so we'll carry on for right. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, glad you found out. Looked at Linda already. So let's move on for the moment then. And so do you have these tools in place now? You may remember earlier on, actually, Muriel, could you just stay on the stream as well, so you can just interact as well if necessary a little bit?
Yeah, I can. I've just got to reply to a comment. Okay, yeah. So just carry on.
Lovely. All right. So, do you have these tools in place? We touched on this earlier on, but do you have things in place where you can do the job once and create content and repurpose and amplify multiple times? have you got a solution in a box to generate a strong lead flow of new opportunities month in, month out? And would you like to have the tools to leverage your entire marketing and sales efforts? If that does appeal, then we've got a few things which I think could well be of interest. Also, bear in mind, don't dismiss LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really important place to be. Now, obviously, platforms such as Facebook and Instagram and others are very relevant. For example, there's someone I know, in fact, Muriel introduced me to him, which of course is Marco Robinson, but he's got 120,000 Instagram followers, and is probably also, because he's been on a Channel 4 TV series and also produced a film as well. So clearly, if you've got that type of following, then in itself, that can be really good for helping you to find new clients and new business. And if you've got a very visual product or service, which is very people orientated, then then Instagram and possibly Facebook can work well in that space. Facebook, it's interesting because the demographics have changed a little bit on that. It's still very good. And it's funny enough, it's becoming a slightly more older demographic now, because a lot of the younger people don't necessarily regard it as being so cool anymore. But it's still a really good place to advertise, but with the caveat that you can literally be pouring money down the toilet again if you don't make sure your whole sales process is very well optimized. So, but what I'm going to be doing in a bit is sharing with you exactly what you can put in place to really leverage things and to grow. And so remember what I said earlier on, if something is free, then you are the asset and the commodity, in which case it's vital that you leverage what you do to rise above the noise. Now, if you don't leverage what you are doing, so you rise above the noise, in reality, it's a little bit of a hiding for nowhere. You'll get a little bit of business, you get a bit of traction from it, but the amount of effort you'll have to put in will far outweigh what you can probably get. So it is about being much more strategic with these things. And remember what I said earlier on about these platforms is either invest your time or invest your money, or you invest both. And usually a hybrid hybrid parts of this can work extremely well. So your quick recap, we obviously love working with clients to help them to elevate their brand, bring their sales forward, and use technology to give you your time back. And we've got a great desire as well to make a big difference. And so do you have these tools? Would you, going back to doing the job once, being able to create the content, repurpose, and amplify many times, have you got the solution in the box to create a long stream of opportunities and so on? So for example, let's look at something here, which is if you create a video piece of content, or you run a live stream, okay, does it necessarily have to stop there? How about converting that video or live stream into a podcast? Okay. Also, why not simultaneously stream your content over, like we're doing here? We're simultaneously streaming over Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, starting from January the 1st for ourselves and also for our clients. We're also going to be going out through the major podcasting channels. So just channels such as Spotify, Spotify, it'd be Alexa, it'd also be Apple Podcasts and so on. So you can take the same content, or at least an edited version of the content, and distribute it through multiple channels. And of course, that gives you considerably extended reach. The big thing is that, yes, it does require a lot more effort, but you can multiply the leverage effect or your reach, by perhaps 10 or 20 times by being smart about it. And of course, if you do that, you're starting to really drive people into your business as part of this. And then the solution in the box really revolves around the TimeMachine and so on as well. And what I would just talk about here is that it's really important you understand your markets and marketing mix and how you want to reach people. You need to have a very clear product portfolio. It's also very important you are clear about your social selling blueprint. Now, that's basically a system or methodology so you can reach out to people in a consistent way. And as a case in point, so let's look at this here. So if you've got your marketing, your intellectual property, your sales assets and systems, in effect, what you want to be doing is basically looking at videos, live streams, how you can turn that into a podcast, and then put that out through multiple channels. What that can do to add value to your email marketing, how this can be positioned so you can create webinar content. Now, maybe that using some of the content which is based on your live streams, okay, but you're repurposing it or you're redeveloping it based on the content of that. Now, that could be webinars which are live, or it could be automated webinars which integrate with other solutions. And then from that, how can you use the same content you've already developed, basically edit it and turn that into reports or books or articles or posts which go out on the social media platforms. And equally, if your business model is to run events or online events, well, why not do precisely that? And the other thing with all of this is you are also, if your content is of high quality, you're creating really good e-learning content as well. So, for example, since March this year, we've run over 36 live stream events. Okay, now we've got someone behind the scenes who's taking every one of those shows, and from an hour-long program, it's being condensed down to between 30 and 40 minutes. That'll be then republished again on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, and ultimately LinkedIn as well. And also what will then happen is, based on the edited version, it will go out through the podcasting channels and these other areas we talked about here. It'll be further extracted and turned into content for reports. And what we're going to do as well, moving forwards, we've already got one book which is being produced. We're also going to take the individual sessions of these and turn these into chapters in a book. Okay. Now, the good thing as well is, if you've got some really high quality content, then I would say out of the 36 sessions that we've done, probably about 28 are really good. There's probably 8 that we may not use in the way we described for various reasons. So let's take that 28. Well, that's effectively almost 28 chapters in a book, okay? Or it's 28 different reports. And you might even be able to, this isn't our model, by the way, but you might be able to actually find someone to help you help sponsor that for you in some shape or form as well. So it's just worth thinking about that, how you could do something once and repurpose it multiple times. Now, before I move on, Muriel, what comments or questions we've got that could we pick up on here?
Well, we've got Damien and Linda who would like to join, and they're thinking of a killer question to really make you think.
Muriel, you've got the link there, haven't you?
Yeah, I posted it in there for them. And there was one from Vicky. Now, this is interesting. So, Vicky, I worked for quite a while in the past with a coach on everything to do with LinkedIn marketing, followed his every recommendation, and then joined a group where we weekly did LCS. And although views were higher, still no leads. What could she be doing wrong?
Right. Okay. Vicky, what I don't know is, Vicky, would you be up for coming on into the green room as well? Just put yes or no in the chat. Okay. Right. Sorry. Who's the other two? It was Damien and
Damien and Linda.
Right. Can Damien, Linda, and Vicky, if you're happy to do it, don't feel awkward if you don't want to. But can you use the link that Muriel's shared and just come into the green room? When you do that, you'll need to make sure. I think they have to close the tab down with Facebook running in it. So just make sure.
Yeah, I have asked them to close the platform they're on at the moment. Otherwise, we'll get a lot of backfeed.
Yeah, but then you'll need to keep that link to rejoin it again. So don't lose it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So can you all three of you click the link? Well, let's as each one comes to. If I don't get to you straight away, just be patient in the green room. We'll bring you in. I think let's have a bit of fun with this. Okay. If you got backfeed, who's got backfeed? Muriel. Someone got backfeed, did you say?
No.
Okay, I'm misunderstanding the comment there. Okay.
No, but they will have if they keep their other platform open.
If we do get backfeed from you, we'll need to meet you again until you've sorted that out. Okay. So right. So I think we've got I think there's some more comments coming in as we speak, isn't there? Right. Spare me a second. Right. So let's bring Damien in. I think he's the first there. So let's go with Damien. So Damien, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, I'm well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Yeah,
Yeah, all good, thanks.
good. Yeah, good.
Good.
And Damien is another one of our favourite clients. Yeah, so and we've seen we've got a few international people on today, haven't we? So what's it like today where you are?
Well, I'm dialing in today from Sardinia, and it's a bit cooler today. It's a little bit chillier, and yeah, we've got some kind of wintry, autumnly weather here. So It's sort of about 10 or 15 degrees outside or something. So.
Oh, right, okay. Well, a bit warmer than here anyway. So,
Okay.
And I'm a bit nervous what you're going to ask me, but far away with that question.
Well, it was really about how do we take a cold prospect or a cold lead and build it into some kind of warm prospect where we can convert business through using a community or sort of tribe product, and also using podcasts, because I've been just developing a podcast at the moment and it's fantastic. I'm getting some great interviews. I'm just curious to know if there's a kind of methodology of how to use that to convert people into paying clients and how to build that tribe using that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think in many ways, in terms of turning those into paying clients, it's exactly what you're doing already, which is, first of all, to share lots of value the way that you are doing, getting your name out there. Obviously, it depends what you're podcasting on or putting the broadcast on. You may be able to do it in such a way there is a clear call for action in there. My general feeling with this is, on the whole, well, really give people the option. Some people would perhaps prefer to come into some form of live event, or it might be a webinar. In other cases, people may appreciate a very short discovery call with you before you then take them on to the next stage and ask them to give possibly a little bit of homework to do or complete a diagnostic. So that would be a really good strategy. But actually, Damien, that's really exciting to hear that, because you obviously you didn't know what was coming up, and you must have read our minds. So this is what's come up in January, and we'll be speaking with you about this anyway. So, but yeah, I'm not sure I fully answered your question, though. I think it might have been two parts to the question.
I think you probably have with regard to the podcast. I think I'm a bit clearer on how I could use that as a useful lead generation tool. It's probably more around the tribe and community and building that. I don't really have, I've got lots of contacts via LinkedIn. I've got contacts on Facebook. I've got contacts, in my database, but I haven't got a kind of tribe that I'm engaging with. And I'm wondering, if there's something I could do that would maybe start to build that up a little bit.
Yeah, I know we've got a question come about LinkedIn groups in just a second. I think generally, though, Facebook for groups is a lot better. So one of the things I possibly would consider is setting up a closed Facebook group. But I would be quite selective about the people you let in, because at the end of the day, it's only going to be as good as the lowest common denominator. And one of the things that's horrible is when people start pitching in these closed groups. But it is a very good way of bringing people into your ecosystem. So if they're starting to engage through podcasts or through live streams, then do that, or at least a very minimum do it through. Have you got a Facebook page already?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So Facebook page could be good, especially if you're doing live streams, because of course people engage on that. That builds reach and traction on Facebook, and you could always do a little promotional work around that as well. So at its simplest level, the Facebook group, then you can get superfluous comments coming on there. But if you set up your own closed group, that may give you a little bit more flexibility. The only thing I would say is it does actually take a lot more effort to keep conversation really going than you would think. So, and this is why I think it's always much easier if you can get people coming to you rather than the other way around. Whereas interesting enough, we're speaking to Vicky in a moment, but LinkedIn groups, since they changed it a few years ago, or it's improved a little bit recently because some changes Microsoft have done, it just doesn't have the same energy going into it as some of these other platforms out there. So hopefully I've talked a little bit on that, Damien.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rupert. Keep up the great work.
Yeah,
cheers.
Thank you. All right, you're welcome to stay there anyway. So
okay, sure.
Yeah, good. So Vicky, I think you've about to join us. Is Linda coming in as well?
Linda's got to download Chrome because she's on a Mac, and it's not supported by Safari.
Okay. That's possibly true, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I'm assuming she's still downloading it.
That's all right. Well, let's bring Vicky in now. So Vicky, welcome.
Hello, Vicky.
There we go. You can see Linda's there as well. Vicky, yeah, so far away with your question. Nice to see you, by the way.
Sorry?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and you, yeah. So we've seen each other before, haven't we? Have you joined us? I'm trying to think where we met.
Academy?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Years ago.
Yeah, wow. Academy, Academy with an E. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. It's been back a while. So Vicky, tell us more.
So I kind of started this, I think it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, where I actually hired a coach to help me with the marketing on LinkedIn. And he grilled me, and it was something like 4 months, lots of money that I paid him, and hours of redoing my website, writing the posts, doing this, repurposing, engaging with people, having conversations. And I had a lot of really, really good conversations with amazing people, but none of them were actually clients. They were people like me. They were looking for clients as well. And I absolutely was burnt out by the end of it and nothing to show. Learned a lot from it. Then I worked with a group of, I used to be an assistant with Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna on all the NLP trainings. You know, I did it for 8 years. So we had a group there with LinkedIn where every Thursday and Friday between 12 and 2, we would post something, whether it's an article or a post or a video. And I used to do more videos than anything else. And then we would all go and like, comment, and share on each person in that group within the 2-hour period. So that, of course, caused a lot of like, oh, in LinkedIn, oh, you know, there's interest and people like it. So I definitely got more views, but most of the comments, of course, were from the actual group itself. That brought nothing. And then that was also exhausting to constantly have the content and to share and to go and read everybody else's and to work on it that way. So I have done various different things on LinkedIn because I still do think that LinkedIn is probably the best business platform. But I feel like I'm doing something wrong because I've increased the number of networks that I've got. I've got a lot of recommendations. I've got testimonials. You know, I have looked at this person of this is how your profile should look. And then, no, it's supposed to be this way. So we do that. I keep doing it and it doesn't work.
No. Okay. I think there's several points here. Thank you very much for being so open about that, by the way. It's always a big thing to admit there's been a challenge with something. I think there's several parts to that. First things first, in terms of actually getting a return on investment, which, of course, at the end of the day, if you're spending money on anything, you want a return on investment. I would still say that, especially if it's a business client you're trying to reach, LinkedIn generally as a direct form of outreach through personal messaging is probably the best way of doing it. But it's about having the right process, the right methodology, and being able to do it with consistency. Okay. And it's about also making sure you get your segmentation and targeting really spot on. Okay. So that's still, we'd say, right at the top there. It's still good to put out content articles there. Now, the thing to bear in mind is that LinkedIn is rapidly starting to go a little bit the way Facebook is starting to go. It went a few years ago. To start with, they started giving people a lot of traction on articles and posts. But obviously, like anything else, LinkedIn want you to pay to play. Okay, yeah. So what's happening? And of course, a lot more people are doing it. So somehow you've got to rise above the noise. So really, putting posts and articles out, it really works far better when you can actually distribute that through multiple channels simultaneously. So not necessarily using automation, but for example, if you were to come in from the point of a video, turn that into a podcast, and then take that podcast into some content like a report, or it could be writing, take extracts out and put it into articles or posts, and then use the distribution networks that are available for that. You know, that can get you out through Spotify and also Apple Podcasts and all these other things simultaneously. So suddenly, you know, that one piece of content is actually being spun multiple ways. You're sharing massive amounts of value, building massive traction. With LinkedIn groups, the trouble is it can become a bit of an ego massage all the way through. It may make you feel good, meeting nice people, but at the end of the day, we've all got lives to live, and I would suggest it's probably a case of taking a much more targeted approach. And unfortunately, what worked well 3 or 4 years ago is not working so well now. For reasons. Does that help at all? Does that make a bit more sense?
Yes and no, because except for the podcast, I started to do the podcast, and then we hit Corona, and I don't care to be transparent.
We're losing a little bit there. Didn't catch that last bit that you said. Can you repeat that? Yeah.
So coming into the lockdown, which of course had its own sort of repercussions. At that stage, I was still living in Greece. And come end of July, I landed up in ICU. I really, really got sick.
God, sorry.
Oh, life. Yeah. It happens. So that, of course, caused the whole sort of thing of like, okay, come back permanently in England rather than flying around the 2 countries. So I decided to look after my health, pack up, unpack here, and start again next year. So one of the reasons I'm here today, other than I got the invitation because I know you, is I'm really sitting back, having to think again, how do I go back in again, and what do I go back in as, and what, how am I going to do that? Because I feel burnt out from all the marketing that I've done in the past, having listened and followed every single person, them checking my profile, checking my contents, repurposing, because I find it very easy for me to do Facebook Lives, LinkedIn Lives. It's the easiest way that I can do it. And then it's easy for me then to take that and write a post and write an article and redistribute that. But I'm exhausted because, like you say, you get the talks, but it's with the wrong people. Yeah. So I'm doing something fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
Because if somebody says, here's the list that you need to be doing, I can tick all of that.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, you shouldn't beat yourself up over it, because you're already 10 miles ahead of many other people as well. So, and the fact, we learn from what we try, don't we? So it's good that you've done that. I think what I would say is probably flip it on its head, ideally. First of all, try and a direct form of outreach on LinkedIn, because it's directly targeted at the people you're interested in. And again, you have to go through the dance first. You can't just go out and sell that way. You have to go through the dance first.
I know that, and I'm good at chatting, so it's...
Yeah, no, exactly. But that type of strategy needs to be adopted online, because for some reason, when people are communicating via LinkedIn, people forget those bits. And of course, but you're too wise to be aware of, to recognize, to fall into that trap. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what I'd say is take what you're doing, but find a way of really amplifying it. Probably a lot of these other things which aren't really doing anything for you, would actually almost just stop doing it. Because if it's not really adding any value to your life and actually causing you stress and anguish, well, we've all got things we could probably prefer to focus on, haven't we? So, Vicky, what I'd probably suggest after that, so in the next part, in a few minutes, we're going to be going on to the questionnaire and the competition. And also, you're very welcome to call it. We can have a conversation about it as well. So, yeah, lovely. Well, thank you, Vicky. I'm going to just bring in Linda now, if that's all right. Bear me a second. Right. So, Linda, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I don't have Chrome on my Mac, so I had to quickly download software.
No worries. Not a problem at all, honestly. Anyway, being able to join us, which is great. Linda, thank you very much. I think you definitely deserve a £20 Amazon voucher for your contribution today. In fact, blow it. We give one to... let's see, we'll do it to all three of you, because you put yourselves forward. So, Damien, you put yourselves forward. Vicky, well done. You've been very engaged today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So, Vicky, tell us a little bit. Sorry, not Vicky. Linda, tell us a bit more about what you wanted to raise, or the point you want to make.
Yeah, something that marketing and sales is something that I always battle with. I'm a very sort of operational person, management consulting background. So this is a real pain point for me when I'm developing my own business. We might be experts in building other people's businesses, but when it comes to our own, it's a slightly more emotional, traumatic experience. So I've been trading as a limited company for 5 years. I did run for a year as a freelancer before I sort of finally developed a brand and launched a business. I think the problem that I struggle with in the whole sort of marketing approach is the lessons to be learned out there are very often focused on the high volume, low value sort of churn type of sales. My business is very much more a low volume. I might try and onboard maybe 6 clients a year, but obviously high value. How do you think the process needs to be tailored to cater for that type of small business?
Actually, a lot of our clients fall into that mix, to be frank.
What's the consultants on board here today with the case?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted. What is your average value of sale, Linda?
Maybe 10 to 15,000.
Okay, and so that'd be like your core product, would it? And
well, the product, as I mentioned in the chat, I'm reproductizing at the moment. It's only taken me 5 years learning curve. So yeah, I'm sort of repositioning how I promote the programs that I have to offer. And yeah, so a core one would be probably, I think we're looking at 10 to 12,000.
Okay,
over a 13-month period.
And what would your foundation products be? What's the average value of sale for that?
About 1,500.
Okay, and then your products as free offerings that you give to draw people into your ecosystem. Have you got any content around that, like videos or books or reports or thought leadership people?
Well, I have got free sort of online books that can be downloaded, PDF. They are much more focused at the startup and SME, startup and early years businesses, whereas my core products, which are the Escape Velocity program for business owners who have probably sort of got to their 5-10 years, might have their first management hierarchies coming in, and they're starting to feel that they could possibly be losing control if somebody else is running the business for them, and need to be able to detach from the day-to-day detail. So that's the program that I'm really sort of wanting to plant into my prospects' minds now.
Okay. Yeah. So is your question really how you can find? So at the moment, how many more clients would you like as of today?
I think my question is more around the chain of events, the sort of the marketing, IP, sales, assets, and systems that you've presented this afternoon. Does that need to be adapted, or is it just simply a longer pipeline process if it's not the sort of high volume, low value?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being provided, how does it differ?
Yeah, it's a really good thing. Just one final question on that, then I should be able to answer this. Sure. Let's you mentioned about 6 clients a year, concurrent clients is good for you. What happens if you were oversubscribed? Do you have other people you can refer to, or not? Do you tend to limit the capacity to what you personally could serve?
I've not yet had the pleasure of being in that position, so I don't have the contingency plan. Okay. But no, in terms of the delivery, it's just me.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like it to be bigger than you?
Not really.
Okay. All right. And thank you again for being very honest on that. So the reason I drilled down on that a little bit is that if you said, look, I really want to grow and scale this, I'm going to go out and go on a funding round and I want to do ABC, then clearly what you want to do within the availability of your budget is to basically throw as much resource at it as possible to accelerate your rate of growth. So if that's not your thing, which is really important, I wish people would be more open and honest about that, then that's fine. So what I would say is, first of all, do what you love. Because Vicky said that she's burning herself out because she's doing all this stuff all the time, getting really frustrated. And I know what it's like. You can literally just burn yourself out and think, gosh, I'm doing all this stuff every day. Is everyone really listening? So what I would say is if, for example, I'm making this up, but let's say your thing is creating live streams and videos, well, do more of those. And then do the bits you're interested in, which may then leverage your exposure and your presence. And the things which you're not so keen on doing, just probably don't bother with those, okay? But what I would say would work very well for you, which I would do with consistency, is probably almost have a fairly low level to medium level campaign running all the time on LinkedIn. And that's using the same system that Damien's using, which is basically Biz-Growth TimeMachine, which I'll come on to in just a moment, where it does all the heavy lifting for you. So instead of having to spend hours per day, you're perhaps spending 15 to 30 minutes a day, because the technology is doing the heavy lifting for you, and all you're doing is engaging, responding to those people who are actually wanting to have conversations with you. And obviously you want to take those people offline as quickly as possible to engage with them. The other thing is, it's more the reason why it's quite important to do that day in, day out, is that just because you want to sell something today, or we want to sell something today, our customers' buying cycles are completely different. They may not want to buy something today, and they want to buy something in 3 months. But if they're part of your network, your community, you can always reach out to them directly, again, using the same methodology talked about here. So I would probably say ideally run almost like a fairly low to medium level campaign, almost ongoing, because you can get to do that very easily with minimum amount of effort. Then if you're really keen to just get your message out there, accelerate the relationship with your brand, then just do the things you love and just get your message out there, in which case you're creating content at the same time. That's reusable, respinnable. You can turn that into a report, a book, whatever you want to do. Yeah. So does that help at all?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We've had two comments, one from Alex and one from Karen Davis, so I'll post them up there. This is for your benefit, Linda. Okay. Reference could be a useful way of converting prospects into high value, low volume space.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Yeah.
I do always ask for references or testimonials after I have worked with clients. So that is, one area where my website's too full. I've been told to take some down, but I do.
Okay. That's good. That's good to hear.
Is to say the right words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Karen said that, Linda, I was wondering how you would describe what you do in one sentence.
Optimize productivity to maximize profits.
Nice.
There you go, Karen.
I've practiced that, haven't I?
Yeah.
Did you know she was going to ask you that?
Yeah.
No, that's the sort of thing that always scares me.
No, that's really good. Obviously, again, your experience really is shining through, Linda. So, I could tell by the way you were asking questions, the way you were engaging through the chat, that you clearly have, got years of experience behind you, which really shows. So again, very similar to Vicky. Well, I'd suggest in a minute we're going to be coming on to the competition part, and also ask you to complete the questionnaire if that's okay. And what we could do is set up a call afterwards if you want to, and we can drill down a little bit more at a personal level if that's helpful to you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay, I think what we'll do, we're actually still running to time, I'm pleased to say, but what we will do is, if I could ask Damien, Vicky and Linda in a moment just to return back to the live stream. Now, I think, Muriel, am I correct in saying they have to come in the normal way? Just via, can you just put the link? No, sorry, if you just go, were you all three of you came in by Facebook or YouTube, or which channels are you?
I'm still on the live stream on the other.
Likewise, I'm on Facebook, and I can just unpause the Facebook Live, and I'll be back.
Okay, good, excellent. Yeah, good. Okay, so everyone knows how to get back there. So if it's all right with you, if we could ask you to return back to where you were, and we'll just wrap up in this part. We'll go into the competition. Okay, thank you very much. See you in just a moment, guys. Thank you. Right, so that's a bit of fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah, good. So let's just have a look here. Just make sure I know where I am now. So I've got half my screen. Yeah. So basically, what I've tried to do here is just to illustrate very simply what we suggest is very important in places. What we suggest is effectively you have your foundations in place, which include the social selling blueprint. And I'll explain how that ties together in a moment. Then you also make sure you have your marketing and intellectual property and sales and asset systems all in place. Okay. And they're all directly related. And of course, everything we talk about here ties with all of that. And you also need to, in effect, have a really good lead generation system, including the Biz-Growth TimeMachine. If you get all those three things in place together, it works particularly well. And how that ties in with what we have, the Biz-Growth Associate membership, which Charlotte, who's on this call today, is an associate member. she's using this to bring her sales forward by using some proven methodologies in LinkedIn to optimize her profile so she can run her own messaging process. Damien, you've heard from already. He's a Premier member. And in that particular case, with that, it's really about bringing your sales forward, amplifying your brand, and getting your time back. So Damien will be speaking with you about that after today, because we're going to be going to all our clients, just letting them know about the latest changes. You're one of the first to know. And the Biz-Growth Accelerator membership is a new membership level, which if, for example, you either hadn't got the budget or you weren't interested in the time machine element, you can go for that instead, which enables you to bring your sales forward and amplify your brand. Okay, and again, using lots of technology to help you along the way. Clearly, with the Premier membership, that does include the Biz-Growth Time Machine as well. And I won't go into massive detail on this now, because obviously it is about sharing value today. But under the Associate membership, which is a below 1K investment plus VAT, or you can pay by installments, we actually help you to with your market segmentation on LinkedIn, so you know what to do. We also help you to make sure you've got the knowledge how to get the best out of Sales Navigator. We also work with you to make sure your LinkedIn profile is properly optimized. And we also help you on the wording of your 5-step messaging process. And in order to take you through that, we give you access to a special web portal, which is like our social selling blueprint web portal, so you can construct things the right way. We also give you access to a lot of video-based learning and a closed Facebook group as part of that. And as part of a rolling 3-month group, in fact, Charlotte, you wouldn't even know about this because it's literally just being introduced now. Those cover your markets and marketing mix, your product portfolio, and your LinkedIn strategy and personalization. That's more group-based, and a lot of people actually asked for that because they actually like being part of something with other people. And of course, you can still take part in the weekly live streams free of charge. And as an associate member, you're automatically invited, if you can, to join us on network and collaboration events, which are run monthly. And that is in addition to having access to all the video-based learning. And then moving on a little bit from there, with the Associate Accelerator membership, that incorporates everything that's in the Associate membership. It doesn't include Biz-Growth Time Machine, but it does give you access to 4 business strategy and accountability workshops over 12 months. Plus, you also get 8 monthly foundation workshops, and we make recordings available. Now, it's not an in-depth training, but it's more of getting you started, giving you the foundation so you can do it yourself. Now, most people, if they're pointed in the right direction and have got the right support around them, are very quick to learn and do things themselves. So, for example, you may know how to produce videos, you may not know how to do live streams. So we'll show you how you can do that. You may not know how to do podcasts, but again, because you'll be part of a group, we'll show you how to do it. We'll even potentially propose a particular platform so you can do it very easily along with everyone else. And because you're using the same technology, you can all learn from each other. Obviously, we'll go into email marketing webinars and the different types of webinars and some of the sophistication you can build in around that. And then we'll also explain how you can take that content and reports and turn that into a book. And how if you want to run online events, that'll be discussed as well. And equally, how you can turn that into e-learning. Now, that's part of the Accelerator membership, Biz-Growth Accelerator membership, which includes all the benefits of the Associate membership. And the top level, it's the Biz-Growth Premier member, which most of our clients are choosing to go for now where budgets allow. That includes, and Damien, you'll be pleased to hear, as a Premier member, you'll automatically benefit from this at no extra cost. So if people want to upgrade, normally there is an extra cost, but as an existing client, we want to look after you. So with that as well, you get everything you're familiar with. But for those of you who are not familiar with Biz-Growth Premier membership, that includes everything in the other 2 membership levels I've mentioned. But the difference there is that you are actually getting 4 strategy sessions per year, plus accountability groups, plus all the content mentioned before. But you're also getting access to special support around Biz-Growth Time Machine, how to run the campaigns. We literally provide you with the computer and the campaign management software within a box. That's why we call it Biz-Growth Time Machine. It's incredibly easy to use. You get full training and support. You do still need to go into LinkedIn from time to time, but in reality, you actually use it as a front end to LinkedIn, so you don't need to do so to the same extent. You, of course, still have access to all the reach that LinkedIn has available to it. Typically, people get a really good return on investment. So for every 100 people you're reaching out to, you get 10 hot prospects coming through as part of the lead flow of new opportunities with consistency. And you can professionally automate your campaigns. Now, the good thing is, for example, when Linda was speaking a moment ago, you were explaining, Linda, that you only needed a fairly modest number of clients per year. So what you would do is there's like a little slider you slide in the software itself, and you just choose how much activity you want it to generate, how many leads you want it to generate. It's like a little slider, and you just set how fast you want the campaign to run with certain parameters to stay safe within LinkedIn. And the software does all that for you. And it stops the moment people start to engage. So when someone messages you and says, "Look, I'm really interested in what you've got to talk about," or "Could I have a call?" or "Could I attend a webinar?" or "Yes, I'll complete the diagnostic," then it automatically stops, so you can personally respond and then either drop the person back into the campaign or take it over from that point onwards. It's great for segmenting and targeting your clients. You've also got an email export function as well. So now, obviously, there's a bit of GDPR compliance to think around here. But what I would say is once someone's a first level connection in LinkedIn, then basically the software is clever enough to actually build the data around it. So not only do you get the details of the person, but you also get not in all cases, but probably 70 to 80% of cases, you actually get their business email address, and you also get their phone number as well. So now there's a bit of compliance around that, but the regulation in the UK is much lighter touch than it is in possibly parts of the US. Not to personal customers. Personal customers, GDPR is quite vicious, but if it's a business-to-business context, it's much lighter touch. And of course, people have given their, made their profiles publicly available for you to access on LinkedIn. But of course, if you've got to do it in the right way, so I'm wrapping it up in lots of caveats with that. Okay, and typically, a job that would take you, if you're running a full campaign and trying to do it, and we know because we've had a team of people doing this for about 4 years, if you're running a full campaign based on a 5-message process, that would be 3 to 5 hours of work a day if you were trying to do it manually. With this reduces it typically to about 15 to 30 minutes. And that's literally just replying to people that have engaged with you. And some of those you may be to save some template messages, but a lot of them you may choose to personally reply to. And of course, we need to work with to make sure the data sets are right. So that literally does all the heavy lifting for you. So moving on from there, so I've lost my mouse again. So what we've covered today is really all these 6 things. So you've gained market insights to achieve growth. We talked about a balanced portfolio of products, marketing mix, and social selling blueprint. We've also discussed the importance of creating content, repurposing, redistributing to a global audience. And remember here, you don't have to do everything all at once. We'll work with you over time. And you can run as fast or as slow as you want with this, okay? And then we've also talked about LinkedIn techniques and finding high-value clients, how to bring your sales force and get your time back. And also we've talked about how you can amplify that growth and use Biz-Growth TimeMachine to put that all in place. So now I would normally give people a bit of a demo on this, but because it would probably take me 10 or 15 minutes, and live streaming, it can be a little bit more challenging simply because of sharing the screen and everything else like that. But here are some quick screen grabs of Biz-Growth TimeMachine, just so you know. So what that looks like, so this screen here is like a list of people who you've already bought in from Sales Navigator, and each one of those blue dots or lines simplifies how far they are in the messaging process. I'm just trying to see whether you can see my mouse pointer. Yeah, I think you can. So you can see Stephen Moore here. He's actually had 5 messages, okay? He's waiting for a reply from ourselves, okay? And what you can do is you can actually filter all those people by those people who are waiting for your response. You don't have to go through a long list. It might be every day you have to about 4 or 5 messages you need to deal with personally. So, but it will tell you which 5 they need to be dealt with. And then moving on from there, sorry, just get my mouse back. This is like your dashboard. So you can see all the activities taking place, how many connection requests have gone out, how many thank you messages, how many follow-up messages have been sent. And you can run, as part of the standard package, you can run 2 simultaneous campaigns. So in Muriel's case, is on Muriel's, actually it's Sue Hips's account, that's one of our other team members. We're running 2 campaigns. One is to first level connections, and the other one is to second and third level connections. So the software is clever enough to be able to manage that independently for you with its own messaging, okay? And there is something you can do even more, which I won't go into detail on this call, but you can do image hyper-personalization as well. So you can merge messaging with hyper-personalized images, which incorporates an image with their name and their picture in it as part of the process. Now, there is a slight extra cost with that part of it, but it is something that we can make available to you if that interests you. Now, interesting enough, that's so hopefully that's explained a little bit more. And let me just deal with something very quickly. I think, Terry, let me just jump into you very quickly. Terry, I'm not sure you're still with us. If you are, Terry, Muriel, we're going to share the link anyway. Could you just put the link in the chat now so Terry can complete that afterwards? The one for the, to complete the questionnaire, just so Terry's got it to hand. We're actually about to come on to that part now, Terry, anyway. So anyway, the quote from Intel, Andy Grove. Now, Andy Grove, actually, Intel have got some problems of their own now. So interesting enough, I'm not sure how long ago it was written, but Andy Grove was saying bad companies are destroyed by a crisis, good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them, okay? And I think it really does depend where you feel you are on this. Now, Intel itself has got challenges because Apple is challenging them with their new chip. There's lots of other people, they've rather stood still for too long. So really a good example of that, actually, where they were a great company. They may be moving more into a good company phase. But I love that quote. Bad companies are destroyed by a crisis. Good companies survive them. Great companies are improved by them. Okay. And basically, one person's going to win this top prize, which is our Biz-Growth Accelerator membership, which is worth £300,497. That's not some made-up figure. That's basically that's under special terms to do with the mini conference today. So one person is going to win that today. And also for booking and strategy sessions, these are some of the times which we're making available, or you can just click the link in the questionnaire itself. And yes, what you'll be able to do from there is to book in a 45-minute call with me independently of those strategy sessions. Okay. Anyone that's coming on board now as part of the session, I don't mean today, because obviously you may want to take part in this, as it were. But what I would say is that anyone who comes aboard over the next few days, part of these sessions, not only will you get mini conference terms, but also will extend your membership right up to the end of January 2022. So you're getting 2 months extra free, just simply because you're coming on board now, okay? And that's because we want to give you plenty of time to do things. So broadly speaking, this is the link to go to. So Muriel, have you got that link? Yeah. So now basically what this is comprised of is a questionnaire, okay? It could take you perhaps 20 minutes or so to complete. It's in the chat as well, so grab it from the chat. If you're not sure how to go there, let me just see where I can bring that up. Won't be a moment. I've just got to figure out how to do this without dropping the whole connection. Just bear me a second. If I stop the screen share just for a moment, and just bear me a second. Share screen. Yeah, there we go. I see. Chrome tab. Right. Okay, so hopefully, Muriel, can you see the web screen okay? Okay, so basically you just choose businessgrowthbureau.com, you choose learn more, and the last option here, mini conference questionnaire, okay? Now I'm just going to explain this questionnaire to you, just so it makes sense. Everyone has the same chance of winning the top prize. If you've already entered, been a major prize winner before, you are excluded from this part, but we will actually give you a £50 Amazon voucher if you win on that, and the runner-up will get the top prize instead. So it's just in fairness out of everyone. Now I'll just go back to you guys so I can see you again, because I can't see. There we go. Yeah, so if you complete that now, just to explain it, we'll be able to see how far you've got in the actual whole process. Okay, so don't feel that if you're going a bit too slow, you might miss out the chance to win the competition. Okay, it'll probably take about 20 minutes. If we see people, 4 or 5 people still filling it in, we'll give people more time, so don't worry. Now, when you get beyond the first few questions, which may seem a little bit more complex, they're actually very straightforward, but just cut through those. You do get to another part, which leads in with about 16 what are classed as multiple choice questions, but it's just yes or no answers. So it comes up with a question, which is actually based on what's been covered as part of this session today. That's not part of the competition, by the way. So just go down those, it's 4 pages of 4 questions each, which are very simple questions, just yes or no questions. Go through those, answer those as best as you can, and as honestly as you can. And then the next page relates to the competition itself. Okay. Now, because of the value of the prize, it is literally someone would pay £3,500 for that. Clearly, we want to be fair. Also, to be frank, we're trying to avoid a tiebreaker situation because it gets very complicated when that happens. Okay, but most of you will probably get 60 or 70% of the questions right. Obviously, there'll be one or several winners' day. If it's several winners, then obviously we'll do the draw on Thursday based on your tiebreaker questions. So best of luck, everyone. Get started. And what I'll do is I'll try and put something on in background through this tab as well. I'm not sure how well it'll work, but let's give it a go. And Muriel and I will be monitoring the chat behind the scenes. So if you've got any questions, just drop those questions in the chat. Is everyone just clear on that before we actually drop out of this call for a minute? Everyone clear on what you need to do? Anyone's got any questions before we move on to the next phase? Okay, so we'll stay here for a moment. And okay, so what I'll do then is Muriel and I'll drop behind the scenes. We'll come back at periodic intervals, make sure you're okay. If you've got a specific question, put it in the chat, and we'll either suddenly see Muriel or myself pop up and answer that for you. We will reply in the chat. So best of luck, everyone. Just make sure you get to the very end of the questionnaire and press the final button, and that will submit the details through. But don't worry, we will stay with you and make sure you're okay. All right, so we'll see you again in about 20 minutes or so and just review how things are going.
The guys behind the Business Growth Bureau are such lovely people. The atmosphere, the warmth, the feeling, the sensation of the day is magnificent.
I came across Rupert at an event who we believe will be able to help us do a lot of lead generation in the UK, and look forward to doing business with Rupert and his colleagues.
I met Rupert through being one of my referral partners, and I've referred his services to a number of my clients, and they've been very happy.
I have to say the professionalism, the dedication, what they achieve here is simply mind-blowing. Really, really impressed.
Great conversation, great people. Great fun, and more importantly, learn how we can work with Integrated Marketing Bureau more in the future.
Today's experience has been incredible. Connecting with individuals, connecting and getting a different insight into what people are experiencing and what they want to achieve in life.
I learned a few things today, talking to other people, like-minded people. So to Rupert and the rest of the gang, thank you very much indeed.
It's been perfect, exciting, exhilarating, and I can't recommend Rupert and his team highly enough.
This is just brilliant, the most incredible group of people, and we have a great opportunity to just think about life, think about business, think about what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve.
A treble massive thank you to Rupert Honywood and his marketing operation.
Great experience, and I would thoroughly recommend the services of Rupert and his team as well. You've looked after us fantastically.
Thank you very much to Rupert and all of the team at the Business Growth Bureau. It's been fantastic. Today I've been the guest of the Business Growth Bureau on a tool ship called Tenacious on the Solent going around Cowes. We have sailed under our own steam for the majority of the journey, and I had the privilege of steering this very fine ship. Thank you very much to Rupert and all of the team at the Business Growth Bureau. It's been fantastic. The guys behind the Business Growth Bureau are such lovely people. So that means the atmosphere, the warmth, the feeling, the sensation of the day is magnificent. Then on top of that, of course, you've got the experience itself, which has been absolutely wonderful. We not only had great food, they've even organised perfect weather for us, and also we climbed up the rigging. I've steered the ship. We've done the ropes, we've got involved. It's been a wonderful experience, but it's no less than I would expect from these guys.
Today's experience has been incredible. It's actually been very intimate, working with leaders in business and us all coming together and sharing such inspiration and how we can change business, not only today, but for the future. So thank you.
Rupert and Alex have been fantastic hosts, as have all the Jubilee Trust team. And great experience down here in Portsmouth. Been up the mast. We've been fed very well by our head cook, and yeah, smiles all round.
Ended up at the top of the rigging, something I had never believed I would be capable of. So, you know, they inspire you to feel confidence in yourself, your abilities, and it's a an absolutely affirming and empowering experience.
Today has been absolutely wonderful. I couldn't have asked for a better day on this amazing boat. I've met lots of interesting people, and it's been a very enjoyable experience to learn more about being on a ship and sail to the Isle of Wight.
I think the experience that I had today was meeting like-minded business people. I learned a few things today, in particular blockchain, authoring, and what somebody should be looking at when they're going out and doing public speaking. And I think just talking to other people, like-minded people, has given me a lot from the day. And of course, the venue is second to none. So to Rupert and the rest of the gang, thank you very much indeed.
What a brilliant day. Some fascinating people on board. We've had some great networking opportunities. We've got to appreciate what it means to be part of crew on a tall ship, which was just brilliant from an experiential point of view. A few drinks and some great hospitality too. I'd thoroughly recommend this to anybody.
Great charity, great experience, and I would thoroughly recommend the day to anybody, and also the services of Rupert and his team as well, who've looked after us fantastically throughout the day.
When I was 6-year-old, I received my gifts. My first grade teacher had this brilliant idea. She wanted us to experience receiving gifts, but also learning the virtue of complimenting each other. So she had all of us come to the front of the classroom, and she bought all of us gifts and stacked them in the corner. And she said, why don't we just stand here and compliment each other? If you hear your name called, go and pick up your gifts and sit down. What a wonderful idea, right? What could go wrong? Well, there were 40 of us to start with, and every time when I hear someone's name called, I would give out the heartiest cheer. And then there were 20 people left, and 10 people left, and 5 left, and 3 left. I was one of them. And the compliments stopped. Well, at that moment, I was crying. And the teacher was freaking out. And she was like, hey, would anyone say anything nice about these people? No one? Okay, why don't you go get your gift and sit down? So behave next year. Someone might say something nice about you. Well, as I'm describing this to you, you probably know I remember this really well. But I don't know who felt worse that day. Was that me or the teacher? She must realize that she turned a team building event into a public roast for 3 6-year-olds. And without the humor, when you see people get roasted on TV, it was funny. There was nothing funny about that day. So that was one version of me, and I would die to avoid being in that situation again, to get rejected in public again. That's one version. Then fast forward 8 years, Bill Gates came to my hometown, Beijing, China, to speak, and I saw his message. I fell in love with that guy. I thought, wow, I know what I want to do now. That night, I wrote a letter to my family telling them by age 25, I will build the biggest company in the world, and that company will buy Microsoft. I totally embraced this idea of conquering the world, domination, right? And I didn't make this up. I did write that letter, and here it is. No, you don't have to read this through, and this is also bad handwriting, but I did highlight some keywords. You get the idea. So that was another version of me wanting to conquer the world. Well, then 2 years later, I was presented with the opportunity to come to the United States. I jumped on it. And because that was where Bill Gates lived, right? So I thought that was the start of my entrepreneur journey. Then fast forward another 14 years, I was 30. Nope, I didn't build that company. I didn't even start. I was actually a marketing manager for a Fortune 500 company. And I felt I was stuck. I was stagnant. Why is that? Where is that 14-year-old who wrote that letter? It's not because he didn't try. It's because every time I had a new idea, every time I wanted to try something new, even at work, I wanted to make a proposal. I wanted to speak up in front of people in a group. I felt there was this constant battle between the 14-year-old and the 6-year-old. One wanted to conquer the world, make a difference. Another was afraid of rejection. And every time, that 6-year-old won. And this fear even persisted after I started my own company. I mean, I started my own company when I was 30. If you want to be Bill Gates, you got to start sooner or later, right? When I was an entrepreneur, I was presented with an investment opportunity. And then I was turned down. And that rejection hurt me. It hurt me so bad that I wanted to quit right there. But then I thought, hey, would Bill Gates quit after a simple investment rejection? Would any successful entrepreneur quit like that? No way. And this is where it clicked for me. Okay, I can build a better company, I can build a better team or better product, but one thing for sure, I gotta be a better leader. I gotta be a better person. I cannot let that 6-year-old keep dictating my life anymore. I have to put him back to his place. So this is where I went online, looked for help. Google was my friend. I searched, how do I overcome the fear of rejection? I came up with a bunch of psychology articles about where the fear and pain are coming from. Then I came up with a bunch of rah-rah inspirational articles about, don't take it personally, just overcome it. Who doesn't know that? But why was I still so scared? Then I found this website by luck. It's called rejectiontherapy.com. Rejection therapy was this game invented by this Canadian entrepreneur. His name is Jason Comley. And it's basically the idea is for 30 days, you go out and look for rejection. And every day get rejected at something. And by the end, you desensitize yourself from the pain. And I love that idea. I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I'll film myself getting rejected 100 days. And I came up with my own rejection ideas, and I'll make a video blog out of it. And so here's what I did. This is what the blog looked like. Day one, borrow $100 from stranger. So this is
Hello, everyone. I can see a number of you still completing the questionnaire as we speak. So I'm just trying to see at the moment exactly how far people have got. I think most people have got at least 3/4 of the way through. I'm just trying to see who we're still waiting for at the moment. Tom, you've completed your details, I believe. Vicky, you're continuing at the moment. Linda, you're continuing at the moment. Charlotte, I think you're continuing, and also Mike. Okay, so let's give you a few more minutes. If anyone's got any questions they want to ask in the meantime, let's have a look down the chat and see whether there's anything there that I might have missed. Well done, Tom. Yeah, I can see in the chat. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, good. So Terry, I think it's a shame we missed Terry. We'll catch up with him the next few days, I'm sure. So that'd be really good. So if any of you have got any questions, do reach out in the meantime. We need to give people just a few more minutes to complete the details. So if anyone's got any questions now, do drop them in, and let's see what I can do to try and answer those for you. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it so far. What feedback have you got? Those of you who are with us still who've completed the questionnaire. I said I want to distract you from what you're doing at the moment, but if you've got any feedback, we'd love to hear it from you. Anything if you feel we could be doing a little bit better, or any questions that you feel we may have a little bit of battered answering for you, I'll be very pleased to interact and do my best to answer those for you. So everyone's being quite quiet at the moment, so being very industrious. Give me a moment. Right, okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, let me just do a refresh and just see where everyone's at. Yeah, we've got 2 more people still completing it at the moment. So I can see Linda, you completed. Tom, Vicky, lovely. Charlotte, you're almost there. Mike, you're not far off. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll give everyone about another 2 or 3 minutes. If you're very near the end, don't worry, we'll know how far you've got. I'll come back in about 2 or 3 minutes' time and see how you're doing. Right, cheers.
Before I went to where I was working, I came downstairs and saw this big guy sitting behind the desk. You know, he looked like a security guard. So I just approached him, and I was just walking, and that was the longest walk in my life. I just hair at the back of my neck, standing up. I was sweating, and my heart was pounding. And I got there and said, "Hey, sir, can I borrow $100 from you?" And he looked up. He's like, "No." Why? And I said, "No, I'm sorry." Then I turned around and just ran. I felt so embarrassed. But because I filmed myself, so that night I was watching myself getting rejected. I just saw how scared I was. I looked like this kid in Sixth Sense. I saw dead people. But then I saw this guy. He wasn't that menacing. He was a chubby, lovable guy, and he even asked me why. In fact, he invited me to explain myself. I could have said many things. I could have explained. I could have negotiated. I didn't do any of that. All I did was run. I felt, wow, this is like a microcosm of my life. Every time I feel the slightest rejection, I would just run as fast as I could. And you know what? The next day, no matter what happens, I'm not going to run. I'll stay engaged. Day 2, request a burger refill. This is where I finished, went to a burger joint, I finished lunch, and I went to the cashier and said, "Hey, can I get a burger refill?" And he was all confused. I was like, "What's a burger refill?" I said, "Well, just like a drink refill, but what's a burger?" And he said, "Sorry, we don't do burger refill, man." So this is where rejection happened. I could have run, but I stayed. I said, "Well, I love your burger. I love your joint. And if you guys do a burger refill, I would love you guys more." And he said, "Well, okay, I'll tell my manager about it. Well, maybe we'll do it, but sorry, we can't do this today." Then I left. And by the way, I don't think they ever done burger refill. I think they're still there. But the life and death feeling I was feeling the first time was no longer there, just because I stayed engaged, because I didn't run. I said, "Wow, great, I'm already learning things." Great. And then day 3, getting Olympic donuts. This is where my life was turned upside down. I went to a Krispy Kreme. It's a donut shop mainly in the southeastern part of the United States. I'm sure they have some here too. And I went in and said, "Can you make me donuts that look like Olympic symbols?" Basically, you interlink 5 donuts together. I mean, there's no way they could say yes, right? The donut maker took me so seriously. So she put out a paper, started jotting down the colors and rings. It's like, how could they make this? And then 15 minutes later, she came out with a box that looked like Olympic rings. And I was so touched. And I just couldn't believe it. And that video got over 5 million views on YouTube. The world couldn't believe that either. And you know, because of that, I was on in newspapers and talk shows and everything, and I became famous. A lot.
We've got one person who's just finishing off completing the questionnaire, so we're going to give it a couple more minutes. Whilst we're just waiting for that person, I will just get back to the other screen again, so bear with me just a moment. Well. I think we might have a clear winner, actually.
We have.
Yeah, so you can't say anything just yet, Muriel. Can't say anything just yet.
No, I'm not saying anything. My lips are sealed.
I'm just having a look. Just going to file refresh just to make sure on our system side everyone has just finished details. So as a matter of interest, a bit of a cruel question. Who thinks who's won the prize today? Who thinks who's won the prize today? Come on, just everyone give their thoughts. There've been quite a vocal bunch on this call today, so it'll be really interested to get your opinions. So don't be backwards and coming forwards. So right, just bear me a second. I'm just going to check a few things out on this side before we announce the winner. Okay. Right, everyone's being very shy. Okay, so no one's got any idea who's won. Okay, right.
The person who was listening. What's that? The person who was listening.
Who was listening the most? I can't remember the stats. Okay, that's funny. That's Vicky.
Vicky thinks. Who's that? Vicky thinks Charlotte won.
Yeah.
Linda said the person who was listening the most.
Right, well, I think we'll keep everyone out of suspense. So we do actually have a very clear winner today, actually. So Karen is saying Linda. Someone who does shorthand. Yeah. Yeah, well done, Tom. I love it. I love it. Right, well, the prize winner is actually Charlotte.
Yay!
Very good. Let's come to my clap. There we go. That's very good.
Well done, Charlotte.
Yeah, so good. So what we'll do is we'll upgrade your membership from Biz-Growth Associate membership to Biz-Growth Accelerator, Charlotte. Very well done on that. And yes, so Muriel will be in touch with you tomorrow to put that all in hand. Yeah, so that's very well done. And this is the runner-up prize, which is a £20 Amazon voucher. Should go to, let me just make sure I'm not making mistakes here, is to Mike Gee. So you got, Charlotte got 90%, so you got only one question, no, two questions. Hang on, there's 10 questions. Yeah, so you got one question wrong, Charlotte, but so got 90%. Mike got 3 questions wrong, so you got 70%. So well done on that. So Tom, sorry, I get that right. So Mike, you've got a £20 Amazon voucher on its way to you. Just need to email Muriel with your Amazon email address. Now, bear in mind that might be different to your own normal email address, and it's really important we have the right one because otherwise money could go into someone else's account. Okay, so right, so let's have a look. We've just got a couple of last things before we call it a day, as it were. So I think you can see my screen. Yes, you can. So this is what we've got going on Thursday for Thursday's live stream. So Mike Romling, so the session will start at 5 to 5. We will start 5 minutes early to give the whole Facebook, Twitter, Periscope algorithms time to catch up and notify people who've subscribed. He's going to be covering remove the doing to make the impossible possible, and learn how to communicate to yourself to massively improve business performance, and dealing with anti-hijacking tactics. Learn how to get out of your own way, introduction to 3 brains and how to use them to achieve impossible results, and understand how to boost your belief system to maximize business performance, behaving to become. And the way you get to that is very simple. You just go to Business Growth Bureau, then choose the events drop down from the menu, choose the live streams. It may refer to 4 o'clock as well. I need to update that page because the 4 o'clock sessions now are once a month on the second Thursday of each month. So that will be updated in the next 24 hours or so. But the Thursday session starts at 5 to 5 o'clock with Michael Romling. So just a very big thank you for taking part today. Really appreciate all your feedback. You've made it a lot of fun. And thanks ever so much. Really appreciate your very kind contribution. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. And I think Linda's made a lovely comment there. That was the longest marathon video conference I've ever been on lockdown. Interesting content. Thank you for that. Actually, I know someone who beat me to that. Actually, they did a 2-day mini conference or conference. And what they did is they broke for an hour for lunch and 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. And actually it was very well attended. But I think it depends. If the content's interesting and it's relevant, then people will take part. Okay, Tom, sorry you didn't win it. You're not far off the mark, but a little bit way off. And Vicky, you did well, but not quite well enough, unfortunately. And Linda, you did well, but not quite well enough. But anyway, well done. Have a lovely evening. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.